Okay, we're going to open the Board of Selectmen meeting for Monday, July 10th at 6:31. We stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. I'm just waiting for Denise to come back. So we don't have any resident or public comments that were submitted, so we can move on from there. Bill, is Denise printing you off something? Is that what she's doing?
Yeah, just copy the agenda so you can move down as we go.
Well, we need her to take the votes.
Thank you.
So we can't do anything until she records the votes. But Lisa's here in the front row. She's so happy to be here, too. All right, so I'll read the warrants. Motion to approve payroll warrant number 18-01 in the amount of $175,811.90.
I'll second that.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion to approve deduction warrant number 17-51A in the amount of $33,951.28.
I'll second that.
We have a second, any discussion? Bill?
You know, outside the normal bills or?
No, that's our deduction, that's the federal and state taxes for payroll.
Got you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion to approve bill warrant number 17-51C in the amount of $651.
I'll
Yep.
second that.
A second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion to approve bill warrant number 17-53 in the amount of $174,600.33.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
May I make a comment on those?
Yeah.
So just the next three, 1753 is the final warrant that closes out fiscal year 17. 1800 is the warrant that we did last week to get out those first bills that were due July 1st that we had to hold on to until the fiscal year changed. And then 1801 is the first warrant of fiscal 18. So that's why there are three warrants that all sort of cover the same period of time.
Any further discussion? Bill?
So you were able to close everything out and balance everything out as far as departments being over
Yes.
and all that?
Yes. You have a handful of transfers tonight, and that will close out the year. Thank you.
All right, all those in favor? Let's see, 18. Motion to approve bill warrant 18-00 in the amount of $1,572,345.83.
I'll second that.
A second, any discussion? What's that include?
So, so that is the big one that has Pentucket. It has our Essex retirement appropriation for the year, our first round of property insurance payments. So really all of the general fiscal year bills that come due the very first of the fiscal year.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Motion to approve bill warrant number 18-01 in the amount of $197,282.24.
I'll second that.
Second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to recognition. May 2017, Volunteer of the Month, Lisa Soap, for her outstanding dedication in volunteerism to the town of Groveland. And you are in the front row. So I will read this, and I know this is going to go on your mantle somewhere. Volunteer of the Month, May 2016. 2016.
Ah, well,
17.
I'll reprint it for you.
No, I fixed it. Presented to Lisa. See, that makes it unique.
So long to get here, that's
It
why.
makes it unique now, right?
Chelsea, you did get it last year.
Oh, it's a collector's item. Presented to Lisa Soap for countless hours working on the Washington Park renovation project and for her time and dedication to Groveland baseball. Lisa's commitment to the town will benefit hundreds of Groveland children for many years to come. Volunteers do not necessarily have the time, they have the heart. Thank you for all you do to make Groveland, the town of Groveland, a better place. On behalf of the town and the residents, we give you the community's heartfelt thanks. Board of Selectmen.
I will give you one.
You thought it was gonna be boring tonight.
Thank you. Oh, no problem. I need to weed those guys. I know, I saw them. I'll give you the mulch when you can do it.
Okay, did you wanna say a few words, Lisa? No?
Well,
That's all right.
We have wrapped up the CPA project as of, I guess, June 2017. So that was, we were awarded, for those that aren't aware, the Washington Park CPA revitalization project was awarded $220,000 CPA funds. Oh boy. And so we were awarded $220,000 to do improvements at Washington Park. 50% of the budget was the playground, which was completed within roughly 6 months of receiving our funds. And it took, I think, a whole nother year to finish the rest of the remaining project. But we completed it under budget. We accomplished all of our goals. We also were able to do a couple things that we hadn't anticipated, but it was nice to have the funds to do that. And it's awesome to be able to pull into the new parking lot down at Washington Park. This is 89 Center Street for anyone that is not familiar with Washington Park here in Groveland. And we have a new parking lot, and it's really nice to pull into the parking lot now and see a beautiful playground, kids on the swings. I guess as a volunteer of the park and of the town, I would just ask for people, if they do go down there, just be mindful it is your park. You know, if you see anything that's out of place or needs attention, bring it to someone's attention. If you see trash, pick it up, and enjoy the park. We have a great little town, and we have a great park, and come down, check it out, 89 Center Street. Thank you all.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to appointments. We have appointment of Children's Librarian Darcy Lepore as acting library director at an annual salary of $62,200 effective August 1st, 2017, and continuing until such time as a permanent director is in place.
So Darcy is here if you needed to speak with her.
Hello, Darcy. Did you want to add any comments or background about what the library is going through or anything like that, or what the search is going for, or anything? Can you go up to the microphone? That's okay. Doesn't have to be formal, just asking some questions.
Hi. So yeah, the search committee seems to be very actively searching. So, you know, an interim position isn't really, it's not going to be for a very long time, I don't think. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Well, I was more, and I think maybe some of the board members might have just a couple of simple questions, but
Yeah.
it's more of, you know, is it something that is within your scope to handle, or is it going to be something that's going to be more of a learning curve, or?
I mean, I think learning will go along with the job, but I am qualified. I have my master's in library science,
Okay.
and I have a lot of experience. I have like 18 years of public library experience.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I know the library. I've been here for a few years. Yeah. I've been here.
As the interim director, do you have any plans to make changes or try to take it from where it is now to try and better it, or anything, you know, on that line?
I do want to increase goodwill within the community. I know that there's been a lot of, like, we've gone through a lot of things in the past few years, because for a while we weren't certified, and you know, there wasn't a lot of communication between us and the town how that was going. But I think that maybe how do I do this?
Are you gonna keep things as is for the most part, or are you gonna go in and make a lot of changes? I think that's what Bill is asking.
I mean, I think while I'm interim, wouldn't make very many at all. You know, I'd come to more meetings like this, but
It would be nice if you could try to.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, maybe you know how long it's gonna be till they get a new director, but.
no
it would
idea.
be- If you're in there and you're getting paid the money,
Mhm.
it would be nice to try and do what you can do to either bridge the gap that's going on, like you just
Yeah,
said, between the
I
town and
agree.
the library.
Yeah.
Maybe, you know, meet with some of the department heads, the chairman, the finance director, whatever it takes.
I agree.
And try to
Yeah.
bridge that gap. Maybe you can go out with a legacy of bridging the gap.
Yes, for sure.
Ed, any questions?
No, no, I'm all set, thank you.
Lisa?
Good luck.
Bill?
Yeah, I just have a few. You seemed very well qualified, Darcy. Has there been any talk about making you full-time? The full-time director?
Oh.
And is that something you want?
Yeah, I mean, I have applied for the position. The search committee is in the interview process for all of the candidates. So I have had an interview, and I am interested. I'm very interested.
Been with the library for how many years?
I've been here for a little over 2 years, like maybe 2 years, 2 months now. But I've been in public libraries for about 18 years as a staff member, volunteer, kind of both. Yeah.
What is it about Groveland Library that you like the most, or that has kept you here?
Probably the patrons of the people who come to the library. I like talking to them. I'm a small town library person. So the library I started off in is a very tiny town library too. And the next library I was in was kind of a small town library too. So it's kind of it's the type of place I want to be.
Have you managed people before?
I have supervised. I haven't really been in a management position. But I guess as you go up in the library world, that's what happens.
If you, let's say you would get the position,
Mhm.
if you were to get it, would you be willing to go forward, get more schooling? As you just said, you didn't have much management or whatever. Would you be willing to
Take a management class or
take a management class or better yourself on that end?
Well, in library school, they do make you take a management class, but I could refresh if there were classes around. I don't mind.
I mean, that and any knowledge that would help bring the library to another level.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
All right. Anybody want to make a motion?
Okay, I'll make the motion that we appoint Darcy Lepore, acting library director, on annual salary of $62,200, effective August 1st, 2017, and continuing until such time as a permanent director is in place.
I second that motion.
Any further discussion? Are we keeping it August 1st because that's when Jan leaves at the
Yes,
end of
Jan
July?
is leaving July 31st, or her
Okay.
last day here is July 31st.
Okay. All right, all those in favor?
Just ask
What-
one more question. Has Jan been able to pass along a lot of, what she's doing day to day to run the library and keep it going to you to, feel comfortable that you can,
Yeah.
you've been passed the baton comfortably and can carry on without any bumps or blips in the road?
Yeah, we're having weekly meetings. They're called succession plan meetings, where we go over things such as the heiress report and the warrants and management and staff management, stuff like that. Yeah.
One more.
Yeah.
When Jan leaves, would you have a relationship with her if you had any questions down the road that you could call her and ask her?
I think so. I think she told me that I could talk to her about that. Yeah. Yeah.
It sounded like she was there to try and fix and change and, well, actually, I think I heard it as a fixer. So
Yeah.
hopefully, you know, if she's the fixer and you're in there to take it over and you have any questions, you can pick up the phone and say, hey, I need some help, fix her.
True.
All right. No more
Right.
questions.
Any further discussion?
Hopefully it's all fixed.
All those in favor? Next, we have appointment of Jason Normand, 16 Mill Street, to Zoning Board of Appeals through June 30th, 2020.
So may I comment on that?
Yep.
So Jason has been on the zoning board of appeals. We reached out during the reappointment time, and his email address was spelled incorrectly. So he has reached out and said he does want to be reappointed. So that's why he is on here for his normal 3-year term.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Jason Noman, 16 Mill Street, to the zoning board of appeals through June 30th, 2020.
Get a second?
I'll second that.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Next, appointment of Rhonda Carducci, unenrolled as far as a party, 654 Salem Street, to Board of Registrars for an initial 2-year term through June 30th, 2019. Someone make a motion?
I'll make a motion. We appoint Rhonda Carducci, 654 Salem Street, to the Board of Registrars for a term of 2 years through June 30th, 2019.
Get a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
My only question is, what does it mean unenrolled?
She's not affiliated with a Democratic or Republican Party.
And the registrar terms are all 3 years, but they have not been 3-year appointments, they've been annual appointments. So in order to get them on the proper 3-year appointment schedule, if we had 3 this year, one would be a 1-year, a 2-year, and a 3-year. So I spoke to Ann, and she said that Susan had expressed interest first, so she should get the 3-year term, and then Rhonda would get the 2-year term. And then if someone else comes along, they would be a 1-year term until we could get them on full 3-year terms.
If someone else came along,
Yes,
we still need another person?
yes.
Didn't we have a person at one time, just a couple of weeks ago, and then we didn't have a person? Or-
That's coming up.
Yes, there are 2 that withdrew. So that we're down to the 2 that,
I thought I saw something in one of the, that Ann counted as one of them, and that we needed a total of 3? Is that
she counts in addition to the 3.
correct? She counts in addition to the 3.
Yes.
So we need 3 and then her.
Yes. And no more than 2 can be from any one party. So Ann is changing to be a Democrat so that the parties are equal currently.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Appointment of Susan D'Angelo, Republican, 364 Main Street, to the Board of Registrars for an initial term of 3 years through June 30th, 2020. Can we get a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Susan D'Angelo, 364 Main Street, to the Board of Registrars for 3 years through June 30th, 2020.
I'll second that.
A second, any further discussion?
I know Susan personally, she's a hard-working, nice lady, and I think she'll do a good job at that position. I can say no bad about her.
Okay. Anybody else? All those in favor? All right, moving on to discussion and possible vote, memorandum of understanding with Pentucket Regional School District regarding the integrated pest management, IPM, at the Bagnell School. Was that in our packet?
Yeah.
Sent separate today.
Anybody have any questions on this?
Just going through it.
Did everyone get a chance to read it?
Yeah.
I went over it with Dr. Mulqueen and Denise one day,
So-
about the IPM and needing it for the new field behind Bagnell.
Yeah, my question is, we're the only town that didn't have it before? Is that the way it
Well,
appears?
there was some discussion and debate on who owned the field and who had to maintain the field and what the IPM applied to down at Bagnell. Was it certain areas of the Bagnell, or was it all of Bagnell? So this essentially is covering all of Bagnell for the IPM, but the town is still maintaining the field.
Right, I think one of the issues that came up is we couldn't treat the weeds at the field because the IPM didn't specify certain herbicides and pesticides. So in order for us to update the IPM, we cannot, because we're the town and it's more than 50% occupied by a school facility, the school administration has to update the IPM. So then there was a little back and forth on, well, they're not gonna maintain the field, it's our field, but we can't update the IPM, it's their IPM, so we came to this memorandum of understanding that they will update the IPM and maintain that portion while we maintain the field and actually get the work done. And that's the only way that we can sort of get the fields treated the way we need to.
So the fields near Donahue and the fields near the Page, they're not connected to the schools?
So Dr. Mulqueen told us that Groveland is the only community that does not maintaining the elementary school property grounds. So,
Say that again?
Dr. Mulqueen told Mike and I that Groveland is the only town that does not maintain the elementary school grounds. The other communities handle it in its entirety.
The other communities handle.
So we said, well, we can't take that on. Let's start with the field in the back, and then we can certainly talk at a future date about the rest of the school if that's what you're leaning towards, but we can't do that with our current budget or staff.
Right. As it is, we're bordering on needing another person at the highway department, because we keep adding more projects for them to maintain for the town.
Yeah, I saw that coming.
Right. So right now, this is the only way that we can have the IPM, which again is the Integrated Pest Management Plan, which allows us to be able to treat the fields with the pesticides approved by the state.
How long ago did the town stop maintaining the field?
I have no idea.
Any other questions?
I don't know why it was only us.
Yeah, I don't,
Well, years ago, the Pawtucket system used to take care of all the schools. And then about 2 years ago, they took over, Merrimack took over the schools themselves and snow plowing. They did it for a year as far as the plowing, and they just recently gave the plowing back to the district, or the district took it back. I know the one in West Newbury takes care of it solely themselves, the highway. Again, the plowing, I think the school takes care of the plowing. But I think it's just a way of trying to not have to deal with the debt on their end.
just confusing. You know, who's doing what, so.
Yeah,
This,
I don't care who's doing what, who's paying for it.
right, so this would be under the maintenance of the town's budget,
The backfield.
the backfield. So, any other questions, comments? Lisa? Ed?
No, I'm all set.
Bill?
I'm all set.
Anything else, Bill? Right, so rather than just approve it, we wanted to make sure the board was aware of it, so we can vote on it as a board, then I'll sign it and we'll be okay to start maintaining the field that we put $100,000 into.
How soon can they do the application of weed and feed after it's signed?
So, the school sent me a list of questions that will need to be answered in the IPM before they can actually update it. But I figured I didn't wanna get ahead of ourselves until the board voted, and then we can deal with the updating of it.
Have you taken a look at it? Like, is it a two-page document, or is it?
No, he just sent questions, but things that I can't answer, like what length the grass is gonna be when it's cut. I don't know.
It's a long term.
It's things like that that I can't answer, so I need to talk to the highway department about whether you take the grass, whether you leave the grass, whether, there's all sorts of specific questions about cutting and things like that, so. I will do that with them once, and if this board approves this agreement.
As soon as somebody with a tape measure and a volunteer,
Every 10 feet, you can measure the grass. That's a joke.
may not be, when it's all said and
You're
done.
right, it may not. So someone want to make a motion on this?
I'll make a motion to approve the IPM as written.
You get a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Can we just make this contingent, well, we have no choice, right? We can't do anything with the field.
Well, we could not maintain it, which would be dumb.
Well, that'd be crazy. That'd be beyond insane.
Right, we can treat it, but not with what we need to treat it with to get the weeds that are sort of overgrowing the ball field area. It needs to be a better treatment, and we can't do that until the IPM is updated.
Right. I'm
They
just,
al- They also were saying that we can't even put the weed and feed down.
Right.
You can't put weed and feed on the new grass, and that's what the part of the problem was. So in order till this gets taken care of,
I just worry that some of these questions,
No, I mean,
So-
but they're not that, but that's why I just couldn't say, like, I don't know that
NA.
stuff.
Well, it's also when they can apply, how much they can apply, how long the grass is gonna, there's a lot of things that go with it that we just don't know at this particular time. We just have to get this bridge in place, so then we can move forward to answer those questions, and then getting on a schedule with the next topic that we're talking about, the school grounds discussion, so.
yeah.
This has to be in place in order to maintain the field that we spent a year and a half working on.
I'm just trying, I just hope to avoid to get, us tied up in our own shorts with this in school and
No, no.
going back and forth and nothing gets done because it's just.
Well, that's what is gonna happen before we got this in place.
Right, I think having the MOU is clearly establishes that they will maintain the physical plan and the document itself, while we maintain the maintenance, that they're not responsible for that. They wanted to make that clear, and then I wanted to make it clear that this was only that one field. So, I think we got that identified in this agreement, and that hopefully we can start, and if it needs to be tweaked and we need to change the IPM, that's fine, it can be changed. But we can't do it. We have to rely on the school, because it's occupied by more than 50% of school children and more than 50% of the year. There's like an equation. So we cannot put an IPM in place for that building, for those grounds.
We should contact the school for that.
Well, Dr. Malquinus, who we've been dealing with, and then Greg Hadden is the one who sent me the email about the questions that need to be updated.
And that IPM was just updated last spring, so it's been followed through on. But now it needs to cover that field and who's doing what in order to bridge that, so we can then, again, move forward.
All right, so we're dealing at the highest level, so we should be able to push this through pretty expeditiously.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
So is this memorandum of understanding the same that other towns have? Do we know if it's like the same language?
Well,
and-
we have this because our relationship with the school district is different than the other towns.
Okay.
So if we didn't
It's
have this,
different because we haven't been maintaining? What's the reason that it's different?
it's different because of somewhere along the lines, the field was not part of the grounds the school wanted to maintain. So the town took it over to maintain it. And now that we need to have this in place in order to treat the new field, we have to have this memorandum agreement signed, so we can do what we need to do, but it then doesn't fall under the maintenance of the school's budget. I know, it doesn't make sense, but again, it's something we have to do in order to, protect our investment in the field that we did. Okay, any other questions, comments? All right, all those in favor? All right. Mr. Day. Bagnell School grounds discussion. So, before you start, I did have a nice presentation put together that I cannot project. So, I'm not gonna read it. But if anybody wants it, it's basically a timeline of when we started, October 26, 2015, from town meeting, what it included, and then the steps that came up through the years, or the year and a half, by month, by project, by payment, of how we got to this date. I even had a picture of what the field looked like beforehand, which was awful. The type of fence that is ordered and ready to be put in 2 or 3 weeks before school opens, and then what the field looks like today. So if anybody's been back there and seen what the field looks like compared to even 2 years ago, it's night and day. Night and day. So I am not gonna read that. So that'll save us 10 minutes. You're up.
All right, I'll try to save some more time, Chairman Wood. Thank you. Jim Day, 2 Caudles Ferry Lane, also the phys ed teacher down at Bagnell School. I want to start by saying a couple things. I'm going to kind of just go forth with what we can do now in the future. I don't want to talk about anything in the past, with the field over the last couple of years. I do want to say a couple thank yous, though, because I want to say some thank yous in public here. I want to thank Mr. Dunn, because anyone that volunteers their time to do anything should be thanked for when they volunteer their time to do something in town. And so, Mr. Dunn, I know you volunteered a lot of your time down there at the school. I know there were questions and people had questions around the town, but I want to just publicly thank you for that and your time and your volunteer time down at the school. And also to Denise and Chairman Wood for pursuing the IPM plan that you just talked about with Dr. Mulqueen, because without that IPM plan and having maintenance on that field, the field's just got to go back to the way it was. So thank you for doing that. You answered my first two questions, actually, that I was going to start with. One was the permanent fence. I think in my 20 years down there, I have continuously seen ATVs, dirt bikes, cars even, going on that field. I guess my one question about the fence is the plan to have the fence go around the entire field, even the wooded area where the trails are? Or?
So right now, the plan is to basically remove the chain link fence, replace that with the either 2 or 3 post cedar fence. What is going to happen behind where the tree line is, that's up for discussion, because there are some options. Some of them are inexpensive, some of them are more expensive. Some of them may have issues with people riding their dirt bikes through there, which we want to prevent. But that's one of the topics that I did want to open up for discussion, as what options we have to block some of those trails back there.
Thank you. And then my second question had to do with the IPM plan, which you just talked about. I have a little proposal that I'm going to hand out to you all in just a second, but I did want to mention as I go through the proposal, there is a gentleman who spoke with me, Matt Morris, who spoke with me. He does fields in Whittier, treats the fields, Pentucket, Elm Park, I believe, as well. So he spoke to me about the IPM plan, just spoke with me about it today, saying that if Groveland had any questions at all about answering the questions or filling out anything, he would be more than happy to walk Groveland through all the steps of the IPM plan. And then as I go through my proposal, he also gave to me the cost of the IPM plan and what the treatments would be with the IPM plan as well. So I'll share that with my proposal. I know it was up for debate a little bit. My third question was going to be about the baseball infields. I did speak with Dan Stewart with softball and Joe Campbell with baseball. Softball had no interest in having ball fields back there, but it sounds like baseball would like to keep the baseball fields because they may want to use them for practice. And who knows, 5 years down the road, kids signing up, you need that extra field. Why get rid of the fields if you have them? Driving by the fields today, they are just weed covered, the infields. You can't even see the clay on there now. They look like it's all one field out there. I am going to talk about the proposal again, and I did talk with Joe Campbell with Groveland Baseball about what they do with their infields and how we may be able to do something to help those infields. So without further ado, I will give you the proposals I have.
Does that replace this?
It does, because now the IPM plan price is the only thing that changed now.
Sure. Can I get one more, Mr. Day?
Here.
Do you have an extra?
What's that? Oh, I'm sorry, Denise.
All right, you can have mine. That's all right, I got it.
So if you don't mind, I'll be quick and brief. So at the top is the baseball infields. Baseball infields are, as I'm sure Mr. Dunn will say, are a nightmare to maintain. And Mr. O'Neill, I know with you with the baseball league, I'm sure you know how hard it is to maintain those baseball fields. So Joe Campbell let me know about the company that they use called Oasis, and helps to come in and maintain the infields. And Oasis comes in the spring and in the fall, and they help upkeep the infields to get them looking better. And I guess in the springtime and the summertime, that may be a time where some volunteers come down to just make sure that some of the weeds and things like that are going on. But this gentleman for Oasis takes care of those. Now they have a lawn infield. It's not just all clay. So there's some cutting that goes in there too, edging around the field. So they have he charges $600 in the spring and another $600 in the fall for each field, okay? So what I did is I was not able to get in contact with him, but since we're an all clay field, he's not going to charge $600 per field because he doesn't have the edging that goes in. He's just got to deal with the clay. So that's why I put there as a price of $2,000. We have 2 fields. I just guesstimated, I just put it, and probably high, at $500 per field, okay? So the IPM fertilization plan. So Matt Morris is the one that gave me this information. It'd be 7 applications. It'd be 5 fertilizer and a weed and grub treatment, 1 season-long grub and insect, 1 lime. So those are your 7 treatments that you would get throughout the year. You can seed and aerate it at any time. The aerating charge would be $750, but that's up to the town whether you want to aerate it or seed it. And then that he would charge $3,500, he says, is the price to do that. Okay? So I am going with this proposal. I think, Denise, I heard at one of the meetings that already in the line item for the town is already the mowing from the highway department, so I didn't include that. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I looked at this and said, all right, well, there's $5,500 right there. So after the fence is installed, and Denise or Chairman Wood, maybe you can help me with this. I know a couple weeks ago there was $41,000 left in the counter around. So I just put it at $30,000, saying when the fence is installed, we'd have around $30,000 left after the permanent fence goes in.
Yep, the fence is about 9,900.
Okay. All right.
That was a little bit more than I initially had told you. It was probably gonna come in at because it wasn't 400 linear feet, it was 600? Is that the
Correct.
numbers? Because initially there was gonna be some kind of opening where the trees are. But thinking about, 4-wheelers and 3-wheelers that had torn it apart 2 years ago.
Yep.
We don't want that opening, right? Not at least opening it up wide enough for bikes or anything to get through.
Right, okay. So what I put down here is approximately $30,000 is left in the project after the permanent fence. What I would like to see us do, this is where my proposal comes in here, is I would like to see us take the $30,000 and start a Bagnell maintenance fund. Then we have money in a fund to keep maintaining the backfield and not let it go to waste. And who knows, maybe as this fund grows, maybe we can do other things around the Bagnell School. So I looked at it and I said, and you have this on your form, that with that $30,000, you have already around 5 years of maintenance right there for IPM and for the infields to be done with the $30,000 that's in that account. But then I'm also looking at Mr. Castonway with the summer program was here a couple weeks ago saying that the profit of the summer program, they were going to have a profit this summer. I believe it was close to $12,000. And I think I would like to see the summer program, if 30% is too high, it needs to be lower, because I don't want to see those scholarships for kids go away. I think that's a fantastic idea for kids that can't afford to go to the summer camp. But if 30% of whatever they bring in for a profit for the summer could go into this maintenance fund as well, then we keep adding on to it. The other idea that's not on your form is that Merrimack does this with their ball fields. On their fences, which we will have this permanent fence with our 2 ball fields, they have corporate sponsorships that put signs on their baseball fences out there. And the corporate sponsorships help bring in a yearly money to help with maintenance. Now, I've already spoken with Dr. Mulqueen about this, and he has okayed corporate sponsorship at the school. We could even do such things as name rooms in the building, like the steam room at Bagnell could be named after Chesterton, or we could name the gym after something. It is our building. We have the right to use corporate sponsorships as long as it's not for unhealthy foods, soda drinks, things like that. But we could put corporate sponsorships on that fence around the backfield and be bringing in money that way that can go into this fund at all. I do understand, and some discussion came up later about possibly using some of that money to pave the side parking lot. My only 2 concerns with that is at the town meeting that we had back in October 2015, paving the parking lot was never talked about to use the money for that. That came up later. So when the townspeople voted, they never voted for using the money for the parking lot. And I do believe, I'm not a paver, but I do believe $30,000 is not going to get you very far with paving that side parking lot at all.
May I just comment on that, the paving? So just so you know, Jim, the way that came up was, the Bagnell School project to put the addition on and actually pave that had about $32,000 left in their account that they turned over to us, that was added to this project to take into consideration the paving.
Correct.
So it was not at town meeting, we didn't have those funds at town meeting.
Okay.
So this was separate from the money that we moved from the Bagnell.
It was not part of the money that was brought out to the people.
$32,000 additional added to this
Okay.
account.
Yep.
Which is still in that remaining 40,000, so.
Okay.
That's why we had said, we told them that we would try and get that side parking lot paved because they were turning that money over to us, which is what they were gonna use it for.
But you're
Understood.
correct. I don't know
Understood.
how far $30,000 is gonna go for that.
And I guess,
side park.
like I wrote at the end, I guess my thing is, I want to see us take one project and complete one project. And completing the project to me is having a maintenance fund that can make this project last for years to come, and having a way here that we can keep the maintenance fund growing a little bit to keep maintaining it. And the only other thing I wanted to comment, and then I'll put out there, I'm sorry to take too long, but one of the baseball fields does have, right at shortstop on the clay infield, has a manhole cover from the old septic tank that was in back of Bagnell. So I believe if the baseball teams want to use that field, that cover would have to be removed. So I put in there about, it would have to be cut down and capped, clay filled on top of it in order for them to use it.
I did ask Denise, did you find out from Bob what that was?
Yes, so he thinks the same thing, that it's an old septic cap. He was gonna review the plans just to be sure, but they actually removed other covers that were out there when we did the start of the project, so they could do it.
Okay, so, I actually was on the phone today talking to Bob, because I had gotten a draft of your paperwork, and I knew it was there when we did the project. What it is, a D box for the old septic system. It's about, a foot and a half deep, it's about 3 foot square. It needs to be taken care of. I didn't concentrate on the time, but he assured me today they're gonna take care of it. If they don't, I can reassure you, I'll take care of it rather than put $1,000 toward it. It's a matter of getting some clay, like you said, you gotta cut it, get rid of it, not a big deal. I have a telephone pole of mine down there, I gotta get out. I can go over one morning and take care of it, but Bob said, don't worry about it, he'll take care of it.
Super.
So that, I know that there was this, a discussion on whether or not that was needed for drainage, like that center drain is.
The drainage, though.
Right, so that's there for
basin.
drainage, but we weren't sure what that manhole was over in that right baseball diamond was for.
But the basin has to stay, is that correct? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Everything drains into that.
drains into it, right?
So that should be, the manhole cover should be an easy fix.
Okay.
Yes.
So basically, that's my proposal of trying to have a way to have a maintenance fund, keep this project where it is, and keep it going strong for years to come, and not seeing it get wasted away after a couple of years, so.
So, and I know you and I have talked extensively. Actually, I think more than we were in high school. We
I
talked
think
to-
so, I think so.
So I'm in favor of the maintenance plan that includes something to do with the summer program. Whether it's 20, 30, 40%, I'm not sure what the number is, only because we don't know what the overage is every year. Maybe it's 12 this year, maybe it's 7 next year, who knows? But we can't do the dollar figure, so I do like the percentages, because the school and the summer program are so closely tied together, that the summer program should be doing something towards the maintenance and putting some of that revenue back into it. So that is a good idea. We just have to kind of come to a consensus on what that percentage looks like. As far as the other $30,000, that's basically, that was the Bagnell School, Denise? That fund, basically, that's the $30,000 that's left after the fence, right? I don't know what to do with that. I mean, that was, I guess, technically promised that we would try to pave that backfield, back parking lot area. I don't know how far that's gonna go. That's something we have to get bids on. But I would be in favor of starting a maintenance plan with some of that, not all of it, but some of it, maybe $5,000, at least get the first year off, and then see what next summer program has for overages, and see if we can get 30% out of that. That should kickstart this pretty regularly, right? I mean, kickstart in the beginning.
I think, and my other question would be, Denise, and he's saying about the Bagnell Building Committee, which I was a member of, and I know there were 3 other of us as member of. Now, if I know we have broken up and we're no longer a committee anymore, but if that committee was to say, look, we don't care what you decide to do with it. You want to take the 30,000 now and not pave, and you want to use it for a maintenance fund? I understand the committee had said you could have that money towards this project, whether it's paving or not, but if they don't care whether it goes to paving or not, if they're asked or whatnot, and we put it to a maintenance fund. To me, I'll go back to, again, I think sometimes we get going on one project and then we move to another project before that one's finished and another one's going on. I just really would like to see us focus to finish one project, that's
And
all.
there was no requirements when they turned it over, but it
Right.
was with the hope that we would pave while we did this whole project.
Okay.
There was 32,000 left in that account.
Right.
Instead of them keeping it and doing these things. they
Okay.
turned it over.
The other thing that has to be taken into consideration is, of that 30,000, what are we gonna do with that tree line? What are we gonna use to block, some of the trails behind there? The highway department does have Jersey barriers, but kids playing on them, getting hurt, that's
Right,
an
right.
issue. Do we plant shrubs back there to block those trails so no one can ride their four-wheels through there? Maybe that's an option. Do we put some other kind of fence behind there? That's an added cost. Do we put boulders back there? That's kind of an issue with kids playing on them.
Right, which we already have a lot of fence anyway with the two backstops.
Right.
So we may not, I don't even know what the footage is of how much fence we would need, but it's got to be small, it's got to be smaller
It'd be
than,
lesser than the other
lesser
side.
than the other
Right.
side that we're
So if the
doing.
outside one was 9,900, the inside one is probably 6,
So
7.
let's say it's 6 and we still have, over 20,000 left
Right.
to put into that count. That would make that place look great, I think, and have a fund that can,
And then, as far as the clay fields go, and again, you and I talked about this, when that was originally done, I think it was 2 years ago, Bill, was that when the clay? The administration wanted the fields. So when we talked to them about doing the whole field back there, they said they wanted the clay redone because they wanted the ball fields back there. So we spent money to do that.
Right.
And now we're talking about scrapping that, putting loam over it and putting grass on it.
well, I
Which,
think,
which
right,
a lot of
you and
people are
I-
like, great, makes it easier, and then the other half of the people are like, well, you already wasted money, and now you're not gonna use it and do something else with it.
and to be honest with you, I think in the very beginning, Mike, when you and I had talked, I was for putting a loam on it and seeding it because of the maintenance costs. But I reached out to those other leagues because I think they should have a say in it too, especially if they're going to use it. And I don't want to see 5 years from now, like I think, other times that has happened in other towns where you get rid of something and they say, I wish we had that still.
Right.
So reaching out, and Joe Campbell, the president of GBL, said baseball may want to use that, and they may want to practice there, and they may want to, years from now, all of a sudden their enrollment is up, they got more teams, they need those fields. So as I put on the proposal, I'm in favor now of, well, let's keep the fields, but we may have to pay someone, and this proposal says that we can pay someone with the maintenance fund that we have to come and do the fields, at least for a couple of years.
Right, and I'm in favor of keeping the fields because, again, for GBL, that may run into capacity issues, but also for the school, because if you have a field back there that has a baseball diamond for kickball or softball, whatever, they're going to use it. It's not going to go idle and people are going to be playing off somewhere else. So it'll get used.
Right.
Bill, you had a question?
I'll just go through my list, I've been making notes.
Sure.
I talked to the Chairman Wood about this. As far as the fence goes, when you guys do the fencing down there, we need to keep in mind that there's snow plowing back there. The fence needs to be put off the hot top a distance. And also, when they plow the snow, it goes into the corners, so what they were saying, I'm talking to the Pawtucket, Regional School District people, that you're gonna push the snow in there, you're gonna break the fence. They kinda wanted to leave somewhat of an opening, however you guys do it or whatever, but maybe not. I'm just saying that's what their concerns were.
Would you advise then that the fence would have to go on the other side of the mulch with the trees?
Yeah, I was gonna actually meet with the chairman. I asked him if we can go down, we can take a walk, and I can show him what my plans were. I think that no matter what you do, you're gonna, if we can deter, and that was the original thought, was to deter the four-wheelers. You can spend thousands of dollars and chain link the whole thing, and they're not gonna get in. But
Yep.
hopefully, if you deter them, and with the trees that are gonna be growing in there with the picnic tables, hopefully that idea will go away. But that's just something to think about as far as the fencing. As far as the ball field use goes, when I sat down with Denise and the principal and Mr. Mulclean, his idea was to keep the fields. And he said that because as you know, you're a gym teacher. And he's like, our kids haven't used those fields in years. It might be nice to get them out there and start playing ball, et cetera, et cetera. He also had said, we have other facilities around here that may use those fields. So that's why we ended up keeping the fields. So I'm in favor of keeping them. As far as the weeds go, as you said a minute ago, no matter what you do, if you're not using them, they're gonna turn to weeds. We de-weeded them once already and reclayed them, and they're the way they are now. With that LPM program, hopefully they can put down, they have an actual weed killer that will wipe those out, and if he does it spring and fall, it shouldn't be as weedy.
Okay.
So hopefully that will work. As far, I talked about the manhole already, the parking lot, my original thought was, and I had talked to a few different people, and one of them was the Pawtucket route, the school system, they aren't looking to do that whole parking area over there. They were looking to do an area where I think there's a lot of overflow parking, and using the town's, price from the hot topping company, I thought maybe 10 to 12,000 would do the area they were looking for. Again, the only reason at the time when I was chairman, I was trying to honor what those people came in and said, here's the money, keep it in mind. I didn't want to let that out of mind. So, I mean, if we don't do it, that's fine. I think this is a good program you put
think it's
together.
only 15,000 to pave that area?
I'm not gonna hold
Well, I
me to a
mean,
number,
roughly.
but at 67, what is it spread? Do you know offhand?
It's under 70.
Right, so say 70 times 100 ton, $7,000, you can do a lot of work. I mean, I know everyone here doesn't understand tonnage, I do, but you can do a lot of work with that. But maybe that's not the answer, I'm not saying it is. I think this is a good proposal, I agree 100%. We've spent the money, we put the time in, it's looking good, let's complete it. And when it opens, let's make sure it's wood chipped, it's clean, we can be proud of it when it opens.
Right.
And I definitely think this is a good program, and I definitely think what the chairman said is, if we take some of the money from the summer program and set it every year into this, now this is gonna grow, and if we get the signs, that's gonna help it grow. And that's what we need to do it down the Pines, we need to do it everywhere in
Yep.
town. I think this is a good start, and it's a good program, and I'm all for it. I mean, I commend you for your work you've done, and hopefully we can move forward with it. Thank you.
Ed, anything?
Jim, along the fence line on the back, to me, you've gotta have some kind of a solid fence out there.
I agree. Yeah.
Other than that, if you use that, the fence you're gonna put out in the front, it's gonna get broken. You need something that, the best way would be with Jersey barriers. I'm really not sure that that's gonna look too good out there.
Yep.
But whatever else you use, the kids on the four-wheelers or the dirt bikes, they're gonna get around it.
Right.
And
Yes.
If you plant trees out there, they're gonna knock them out of the way.
Right.
It's gotta be a solid fence. I know that it's a big expense for a chain link fence, but a chain link fence back there would look pretty attractive.
I agree.
That would be the best way, other than a Jersey barrier, but I think it would look better.
I agree. And I think Mike and I had talked at one point, there's even the openings where kids come out of the dugout when they're sitting on the bench. They have the openings where kids come through. But motorcycles and things like that can fit through those areas. And what a lot of ball fields do is not right all aligned, but a little bit off, is they put another pole right in there so that kids can still walk through the area, but the bikes can't get through at all either, where the openings are. So I agree. I think it would look really nice. The whole area will look nice with the two infields done, the grass out there growing and being maintained, and having a nice fence around it to protect it, I think would look great.
Lisa?
I'm comfortable with the proposal. I'd like to make a respectful suggestion to to Selectman Dunn, that he simply state that any work that he does there, he's doing as a member of the Groveland community, not as a selectman, and that will cover him. If there's any issues with any question of conflict of interest, he will be covered.
I can actually put that in writing, right?
I think if you just state it on the record, that you're fine.
Bill?
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Day, for recognizing Mr. Dunn's hard work and commitment and charitable donations to the work that's gone on there. I know in the last couple of weeks has been vilified by more than one person, and I think it was absolutely wrong to, treat a man that's done so much on his own, at his own expense that way. So I want to thank you for recognizing that and making it public. I think he appreciates it. So I do like your suggestion about the summer program. I think based on use, that they should, contribute to the field maintenance. They do get just as much use out of it maybe in a year as the school does, considering, the winter months, probably not so much. I would love to see that side part paved, though. I know I've been going to that school now near on Yeah, I know, 20 years, it's been a long, long time, 16, 17 years. I mean, there's never enough adequate parking. And on a bad day, a rainy day, that's just a mud bowl that, it's a mess. If we could just put even one coat of hot top on it, it would not only enhance the appearance, but it certainly would go a long way to the community's enjoyment of the entire facility, where they didn't have to tramp through the mud. I think $30,000 is a lot to put into the maintenance fund right away, especially if projecting numbers of, $12,000 profit by the summer program each year. It's almost, summer program can almost fully fund it. Sponsorship on the fences, the GBLs and soccer, I think their big draw there is they have towns coming in, and teams coming in from a lot of different towns, so they get a lot of exposure. I'm not sure how much exposure you're gonna get there other than the same parents driving by every day, so that might not be as lucrative as you might imagine at first. But there's other ways. I mean, maybe soccer and GBL and maybe even PYF, who's always looking for a field, might be willing to contribute, we'll say, toward the maintenance of those fields, provided they're accessible to them during certain times of the year. So there's other avenues that you could probably pursue there as well.
I was thinking basketball too, with the gym, sponsorship on the scoreboards.
Yep.
Sponsorships around the gym, because teams come in there, so we could use inside the building too, is that, so, yeah, I agree.
I also think we want to be careful of how many people we're allowing on the field along with school kids, trampling and constantly trampling, especially where it's a new grass and young. And I think we need a couple years of growth and time when there's not a bunch of people on it. So, I mean, maybe down the road, that might be something to look on, but I would say we'd probably want to limit the number of extracurricular things besides school kids on it.
And sorry, Mr. O'Neill, but going with what Mr. Dunn was saying, if the IPM plan works enough where it's killing off a lot of those weeds on that infield, and we don't necessarily need to have the gentleman come and fix the infield, then there's a maintenance cost that gets cut off right there as well, as
Right.
part of that proposal. We don't know how the IPM plan and what they put on there, what it's going to do to the infield yet. And the gentleman, Matt Morris, that went through the IPM plan with me, he said that would not start till spring anyway. You would not start the IPM plan in the fall, because the grass is so new, which I think Mr. Dunn had said. So you would start it in the spring.
So what I would like to, are you done? Sorry?
Just mowing, the grass growing in the infield, GBL, if you talk to Mr. Campbell at all, he'd tell you that as long as you're mowing the clippings toward the outfield, that's the key. They were mowing the clippings toward the infield for a number of years, and we were constantly going down there and weeding around the infield surface, because those clippings would naturally take root and then sprout grass and make a mess. So you can help yourself there. But overall, I think it's a good idea. Something's got to be done. We ought to put something in place. Hopefully, unlike some of the other projects we've had in this town, people want to step up and take ownership of this project and carry it across the finish line and get things done, as opposed to just sitting back and criticizing. And so hopefully you're one of those people, right? All right.
So what I was thinking, with that 30,000 that's left, and some of the conversations we've had and some of these items on here, is that we take 15, move it to try to do as much of that asphalt area as possible. I mean, Bill would know more than I would how much that might cover. And then we take the other 15, put 6,000 or so towards the back fence, whatever we're gonna put back there, chain link or whatever. And then we take the other 9 and start a maintenance program with that. That way, I think we're able to cover or maximize as much of that project as we can.
So you mean the 6,000 to the fence is just for the woods? It would still be the whole thing?
Just for the
The other
woods.
9 is part of that? Okay.
Right. The 9 for the maintenance program to get a kickstart in it. And then on top of that, we target, unless we have other discussions, about 30% of that summer program overage to take, put into that maintenance program, and then they still have 70% of whatever they profit to put towards scholarships and extra things to expand as they can.
So that would be 15, 15. I mean, you have $15,000 in that maintenance fund. There's 3 years you have covered right there, and then whatever you're adding to it. So I think that's pretty fair. And then it gets the parking lot started. Who is this when it comes to the maintenance of that backfield, when it comes to the company, let's say Oasis, managing the infields, if that needs to be done, the IPM fertilization plan, whichever company does that, is that totally a Board of Selectmen thing, or Denise that oversees all that maintenance down there? Or
I mean, we could definitely discuss it, but Denise would be your point person because all of the payments would go through her. If you wanted to be a point person for the group or for the committee, or, a self-established committee down there of what needs to be done or what people are looking at or some of the issues that need to be fixed, you can be the point person and talk directly to Denise, right? I think that'd be the easiest way. I mean, you can certainly call me and ask me any
I'm not looking to
questions.
do, I know we don't have a committee for the maintenance down
Right.
there, and we don't have anything overseeing that, so I was just curious to know.
And I don't think we
you know,
need to
we leave
actually
the
have
meeting and we
anything
have that-
formalized. We don't need more government, right? If you just want to say, hey, there's 12 of us that kind of keep an eye on what's going down there. They gave me a list of things they want to present. What do you think? Denise would say, yeah, this is thing, we'll pay for that, we'll do this, we'll do that out of that account, we'll get this up and going. We don't need to have all these layers in place to actually get stuff done. So that's just my idea. I'm only one. If somebody else wants to present their ideas on,
I don't know if anyone else has anything that they wanted to share either.
so you want to talk? Sure.
Joseph Moore, 9 Cherry Tree Lane. Jim, what a great job. So exciting. I've prepared a history of how the Board of Selectmen came to the decision, which probably would parallel with what you did, so I'll just
If I could
submit
only
it.
project it.
I'll just submit it for the record and skip it tonight.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions, though, and perhaps some suggestions. And I don't want to get into history, but overlapping jurisdictions makes things very complicated.
Mm-hmm.
When you have, at the Bagnell School, you have overlapping jurisdictions. You have the school system governed by the regional agreement, and then you have the town of Groveland, guided by you folks, and the buck stops here, for owning the property. So my question is probably to Jim, if there is going to be a baseball complex there, does your proposal have a component in it that says that a nonprofit organization will manage that field and maintain it, or you haven't thought that through, or?
For baseball?
Yeah.
So, sorry, Joe.
No, go ahead.
No, there's nothing in there for baseball having to put anything towards the field, because I think in the discussion with baseball, it was they were not sure that they needed the fields right now. It may be something down the road that they need it. So I didn't put anything in there saying that they were gonna have to pay anything right now to maintain the fields for that reason.
Well, I appreciate it. But that certainly is a good idea, because if it can be done, but we have to be careful, because insurance companies love to deny claims. And, issues have come up in the past of who does what, who's responsible for what, where do insurance lines begin and end. It's a quagmire when you have overlapping jurisdictions. So you already have 2. If you put on a third, it has to be looked at very, very carefully.
Wouldn't
Now-
that just be a permitting issue if it came down to that? Like, they would come and say, hey, we might want a permit to use the field behind there.
That would
Can-
be one of the remedies, is to permit.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's easy.
Transfer that responsibility.
Right, down to them.
So my other, 2 more points, very briefly. The 30,000, or 20, or 10, or 15, this is just a suggestion. Been in government for 10 years. If you think in 50-year increments, it changes the whole outlook of things. That $30,000, even if you spent it for maintenance, is eventually going to dwindle down to nothing. I believe we have a similar problem at the Pines right now, where a block of money is going to end up being 0. It's going to feel good for 3, 4, 5 years. We got things started. But the problem with the idea of replenishing it, you can't really replenish it unless it's part of a revolving fund where you're bringing in money, sort of like revenue, to pay for something. So the summer program is one of those funds. You bring money in from the tuition. You deduct your expenses for running the camp, paying people, taking care of business, and then whatever's left over, you still have to spend. You got to spend it all.
Right.
So if you can find a way to maintain this property exclusively on an existing revolving fund, such as just a summer program, then take the 30,000 and do those one-time projects with, such as, you know, putting asphalt back there and building fences and so forth. Because if you take that 30 and you use it over 5 years, it will run out. And then what's going to happen, it becomes a financial liability to us taxpayers. Okay, the third and last point I want to make, the highway department, in addition to Bill, in addition to the Board of Selectmen, plus the other 2 and 3 boards that I served on, we should all be very proud. We all were working towards the same goal. And volunteerism has fueled a lot of the good things that we've seen in this town. But one of the things that really bugged me, for 3 years in a row, our highway department requested funds for additional people. 1 or 2 employees. We've always denied that. And yet, I remember when I was on the board, people would call me in the middle of the night or in the middle of the winter, or they wanted this and they wanted that. There's so much that we can ask of our employees. And if we're going to build a maintenance program for the Bagnall School, I hope that the town will say yes at the next cycle. I know you've got some money now for mowing, but let's not say no when the highway department asks for help.
That's been part of the discussion as, you know, we're getting on the cusp where they actually will require another body in order to maintain the roads during the winter and all the fields that we're putting on them to do, and not, in addition to the streets and the sidewalks and everything else. So I know it's coming if it's not already here. So that's something that we're gonna definitely have to look at in the next budget season.
Intentions are good. West Newbury, Merrimack, they're not smarter than us. They just figured out, they've bumped up that budget
Yeah.
to have the right amount of personnel to make things happen. So when people say, well, how come we don't do it here in Groveland? Because we've been cheap.
Well,
Said no.
the other thing is, you know, working with government is everyone says, well, you're government, you can just pay for it. It's a finite bucket, right? So if you increase something over here and the revenue stays stagnant, you gotta deduct something over here. And that's where it becomes difficult to say, we wanna, you know, remove this budget because this one's more important now.
So my last point, again, just the most important that I think I want to stress is just, if you're going to maintain it with revolving funds that come from a revenue-producing event such as the summer program, even if you have to sacrifice something else like scholarships so that in 50 years, 100 years, it's still running that way. If you use a block of money, whether it's 30,000 or 300,000, it's going to run out.
Right.
And then we're going to go begging and screaming to our taxpayers to come up with money for what we were getting for free for a few years. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else wanna speak?
I just got a quick question about the fencing.
Yep.
Amanda Palmer, 15 Yale Street, as you know, being neighbors with some of your, ex-neighbors with your family.
Still family.
My concern is that with the fencing being put in, there's an increased number of young residents that have recently moved into Yale Street, Harvard Street, and all the joining, and I see lots of young families walking and riding their bikes and looking to get up to the Bagnell. And because obviously we've had a lot of it the fields closed for a while, there's no sidewalks on Center Street, and really to go up and go through by the tea garden and around the school is really a detriment to some of the families trying to be healthy, walk their children to school, get to the fields. I just want to make sure that they still have ample access to really get back there to go to school. I see some kids that walk by themselves, that ride their bikes, that come from Washington Park. They go down Yale Street and use the easement to get into the school. And the school also uses actually a path that goes directly to my backyard to the vernal pool, and they study out there. So I want to make sure that we're being aware when we're putting the additional fencing up, that doesn't shut the teachers from being able to use the surrounding woods for their own educational purposes as well.
Well, like Jim was saying, we could put spaces in between the fencing and then just put a post in there. So you can still walk through there, but you're not gonna get a dirt bike or a four-wheeler through
Yeah,
there.
and I personally haven't heard anyone through there, knock on wood, in years, because
Right.
when we first moved in, we used to hear the snowmobiles and stuff, so I'd like to think that some of that's been deterred, but I really know that the school is really trying to, all the way from the preschool, all the way through the 6th grade, is really trying to use, being a STEAM-based program, the natural surroundings for education. I just want to make sure we don't, by putting extra fences, deter that.
No, the reason is because of last spring, someone was caught doing donuts out there and that,
Understood, I just
right.
want to be aware when we're
you know, putting the fencing up, that we're
No, I would say that,
speaking with
yeah,
the teachers with what areas they're using, so
Right.
that we don't make it, you know, more work for them to educate the children.
okay. Anybody else?
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
I have to get up for that. I do. Hi, Barbara Benanti, 50 Wood Street, here in Groveland. Who maintains the school grounds, the front of the school? Because I know we've
That
done a
would
couple
be
of
the
times.
administration.
The administration. So our
District.
Italian has no responsibility for mowing and
Nope, that is the school district that maintains that portion of it,
The front.
the front.
front.
So I had the same question when I met with
'Cause it
Dr.
looks-
McQueen.
It looks horrendous. Now, we pay a lot in taxes, and I
Yep.
just don't understand why we don't take more pride in our school, and the grounds look horrible.
Well, that's part of the discussion on, having dual authority over one lot, basically. The school maintains what they wants to maintain, and then the rest is left up to the town. So that area in the front and on the side by the gym over there, that is the school and the administration, and then in the back,
So it's people at the school, employed at the school?
it's the district. It's the district,
District.
right. So the fields at Pentucket High School, Middle School, that's part of the district. They maintain that, so they also maintain that front. So you're right, they should probably seed, fertilize, water, make that look nice.
Some of the grandparents, myself included, had done the circle a few times,
Mm-hmm.
planted flowers, weeded stuff, and it helped it somewhat, but it's still, I mean, we have one school. And for me, we need to take pride in our school, and we just don't seem to.
Unfortunately, we don't have any authority over that.
So who does?
The administration and the district. So we'll take care of what we're supposed to take care of, but
Which is the back
the
of
backfield,
school?
yep. And this is what this meeting is all about.
Now, when are the children going to be able to play on that backfield?
I don't know, I'll defer to Bill. He's better off to answer that.
It actually, I was gonna go back up and say a few more things, but to answer your question, it really takes one full year to get lawn mature, to put heavy play on it. If we get a good grow season this year, maybe late fall. I mean, it's not for me to say when they can go on it, but I'm just saying if we made this investment and we want it to come out the right way, it takes one full year to get on grass and play with it.
That grass looks pretty bad back there.
It looks bad.
I think it looks bad, yeah. Looks pretty rocky and sandy, and the grass isn't growing in really good, and
It was planted 2 months ago? Is that what it was?
Have you been back there lately?
yeah, it was just the other day. Yeah. Looks better, but it still looks pretty.
I think compared to where we started and when, I went there 35 years ago, I think it looks great. And I think that, to judge something that's been growing for 2 months when it takes, like Bill said, seasons to get something to look like it would look on TV or in another town.
Well, I'm
mean-
just judging it from projects I've done at my own home that take, shorter amount of time. The grass seemed to have grown up a little bit better than it's grown back there. So,
Okay. Anybody have any questions for her? Do you have any other questions? Jim?
I just another quick question. So I know we were talking about the IPM plan. It may be till spring till we could go. Is there any other seeding or treatment plans coming up before fall or with fall, or has Prescription Turf kind of finished what they're doing and now we're just letting it take hold? Are there any other fertilization treatments like in August or anything coming? or-
Yes, so Prescription Turf said they could not get back out there until the end of August or very beginning of September because they did the second round of seeding on June 5th. And they needed that to take for a few months before they re-fertilized it, or did whatever they have to do.
No, I was just hoping it would, and there was another one before fall.
Yes,
for this.
there is.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks.
Wait, can I talk to
Yeah,
you?
go ahead.
While you're there, Jim, to go back to a couple of your points. Number one, as you know, if you build it, they're gonna come. So as soon as that project is open, you're gonna find people gonna go in there, they're gonna use it, they're gonna wanna have baseball. So if it turns out the way it is, I think the funding and what have you, that's all gonna fall into place, just because of the way the project is. Yeah, I agree with what you said, and I agree, I see some people in the back of the room, I met with them down there, a group of, homeowners, et cetera. I definitely think we need to have eyes and ears in that project, and I definitely think we should have some community input, like Mike said, not formal, but, yeah, it's good, you know what I mean, to have, eyes on it. And the last thing is, maybe I can meet with the chairman, or we can maybe talk to the road commissioner, we can get a wish list of where they want a hot top. Maybe it isn't gonna be that much. I mean, maybe we should look at that area and have Mike look at the area, or, and maybe it's not that big of an area they want. Maybe they don't want any. I don't, you know what I mean? I just was trying to fulfill what we had discussed originally.
Right, and like I said earlier, I'm not a paver either, but I don't know, if you could put one level of pavement to get more air, just not put all of it that you need down there, that just put a lining down there or something else. But,
And the last piece of it is, before we opened it, I wanted to put a fresh layer of wood chips over that, and I was gonna donate the wood chips. And originally, I was trying to get a bunch of volunteers and what have you, but I don't know how we're gonna go about it. But it would be nice to have, once it's finally open, a fresh layer, picnic tables in place, weeded, clean, fertilized. It would be great to have it that way, so.
And I do know, like I said, being at the school now for 20 years, I'll tell you that there have been many times, and I think there have been people in this room too that have talked about, or may remember at Bagnell, a beautification committee that was organized years ago to help with the grounds in front of the building, because we've all come to realize that we can complain and complain and complain all we want, but the district only has, there's so much that they're going to do or be able to get to. They have the high school. They were doing, I think they do some of the little maintenance at some of the other elementary schools as well. And we would make comments about, oh, we wish the front circle would look nicer. We look this, and it would just never get done. And I think in years past, that was something that at Bagnell School has done. Teachers, parents worked together and made committees, beautification committees, they called them, had the kids, Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts, things like that to help with the look of the front of the building, planting flowers, taking care of it. So I don't know, maybe that's something we're gonna have to look at for the future, because I don't think we're gonna see anything change with how the front of the building is maintained.
Can you go up to the mic, please?
Regionalization was never meant to take care of all the exteriors of the buildings. When we threw the Bagnell School into the district, the understanding was that the district was going to spread its teaching resources around, but I believe the towns were supposed to be responsible for their building and grounds, and we should be. I mean, you're gonna pay for it one way or the other, right? So why don't we put the money into our town budget and take care of it?
I'm not disagreeing, I'm just stating how it
We
is.
would have a clear line, we'd know exactly what we're doing and why, and after, like you said, we've put this huge investment into the addition on Bagnell and now the fields. It would make sense to, set up a simple revolving account, right? For the maintenance of those fields, and make sure that each annual town meeting, we put some seed money in, and enough to carry through. It wouldn't be complicated, but I do think the town should be responsible and keep an eye on the Bagnell, on the grounds and the building, because we own it, right? So it's our property, and I think it's better if we keep an eye on it than if we keep waiting for the district to try and find time to take care of it for us.
I don't disagree. And having two masters though down there is not simple. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I believe that, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe that the district maintains the front as a courtesy. I don't think it's their responsibility, but they've just historically done it. But I don't think it's a jurisdictional issue. I think all of that property belongs to the town, and the district has done the front. My other comment is that I do think that there's some value in there being a point person. And, I think, as we've seen with Mr. Day, is that he's a person that is kind of there all the time, that has a lot of interaction with parents and people that are around the school. And whether it's formal or not, I do think there's some value in people knowing that they're going to share their concerns with him anyway. And I know that he did some of the work to put this together, so I do think there's some value in maybe having a person that is kind of informally the contact person for the community that then maybe communicates with the board. So that's just my thought.
And to add to that point, it's much easier for Denise and the board to communicate with one person who brings the combined opinions of a group of people than have a group of people come and inundate Denise with, you know, different requests for different things. I think just one, you know, as Carpenter said, point person just makes life easier for everybody. If one person could coordinate, you know, the wish list, and then the wish list be vetted out to what's reasonable and what can be afforded, and then bring, you know, that refined list, one person to Denise or the board, it just makes life simpler, I think, for everybody. And it expedites the entire process, as opposed to being all over the place. They've already narrowly refined what they want.
Jim, did you want to do that? I mean, that's the other question, right? Does Jim want to do it?
I would be happy to do it. I don't want to just say I'm the one to do it if there's other people that, you know.
I think everyone's going to
That'd
tell
be
you they
good,
want you
so,
to do it.
uh,
The question is, do you want to do it?
I'd be happy to do it, yeah. I'd be happy to do it.
All right, so Jim's the point person.
I'll help you, Jim.
Thank you.
So, like I said, my proposal for the 15 and 15 is just my idea. I don't know if anybody wants to make another suggestion, or if we want to vote on it, or if we want to talk about it and then vote on it next meeting, or... Bill, what do you think?
I definitely think, you know, to Mr. Demore's point, we definitely need to find a way to permanently fund this, you know, adventure we're on, or else we're gonna run into a problem in very near future. And I don't think you can count solely on the summer program to do that, so.
So, when Matt Castonguay was here a few weeks ago, he did say that, yes, he would be happy to build this into his budget, some maintenance. I think if it's something that you had a dollar amount of $5,500 a year, I think he just incorporates that when he's developing his budget for the year and his summer program. Because you can't, as Joe did point out, you can't just create a revolving fund if you don't have revenue coming in from a source. A revolving fund pays for programs or pays for maintenance with money coming in. So I think if you came up with something and said to him, we'd like to include $5,000 for maintaining the fields, and then have him work his budget around that and plan his tuition and his fees and his programs and still have that money, I don't think there would be anything wrong with that, and I think they would use it. I mean, they use it, 7 weeks out of the year.
Right.
And most of those 7 weeks are entirely outside, so.
Prime season.
Yeah, so I think that's something that could easily be done. And I just had a question for you, Mike. You're saying 15 and 15, but I had 15, 6, and 9 broken up, right? Are you?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's just a suggestion.
Right,
Because I
okay, I just
figured
wanna
the
make
back
sure I
fence
had
would
it
be
right.
about $6,000.
Yeah.
And then the maintenance for adding 9,000 into a maintenance account would be a start. And then we could put the other 15 into seeing what the asphalt would cover.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly, if you want to hold off for a meeting, I can talk to Bob Eric-Kaling. He can go out and measure and come up with a rough idea of what, either how much could be paved or what amount you'd want to pave. He could have that. I could certainly talk to Matt about, adding this in going forward. So this year we have, I did increase the town's lawn and grounds budget. So we could certainly cover if we needed to. If there was something that we couldn't use for this project, if there's something else we needed to do down there, we could certainly cover it until we worked it out, so.
If, when we talk about the front of the building, and I think Selectman Lisa is right, it's been a situation where they've been doing it out of the good of their will. So if we went back to what Kathy had said, if we put a little extra money in our budget in there, as well as some of the summer program money, and whatever money we can leave behind, now we can build into a package where we get the front done. And I know a lot of the people went down there because the school had me deliver mulch down there, and they had people go down there before school started, and they clean and they weed and what have you. But they're down there for a weekend, and they do their hard work, and they get it done, but there's no maintenance behind it. Maintenance is weeding. You gotta weed it, you gotta maintain it. Yeah, it's nice to go in the spring, but if you leave your beds at your house all season, they're gonna weed back up and what have you. So I definitely think going forward, someone said, it's a public building. It is a public building. Downtown Groveland's a public downtown Groveland. We should have flowers. It should be taken care of and make look beautiful all the time. So I think we should put money into a revolving account as well as the summer program and what have you, and do it as a big picture. So now you drive in there, we don't have just the back done, we have the front done as well.
I
You know?
agree. I think when people come into the town, I said this many times, people come in town, they want to buy a home, and they're looking at a town. They look at, three places really stand out to them. The town hall complex, which looks beautiful. We have a nice maintained town hall complex. They drive to the center of Groveland. Elm Park looks beautiful. It looks, really nice driving to Elm Park, and then they look at the school. So those are three areas that I think the town should really focus on. It really stands out to people when they come in to visit your town or looking to buy a home or whatever else it is. I think it's something we definitely need to invest in.
So let us get some more background information on the asphalt question. We'll get some pricing on a chain link fence for the wooded side of the field. And then, depending on how long that takes, if not the 24th and the first meeting in August, we'll have some kind of decision on how to break that up. And then, if that sounds good to you, I mean, I think that that's the most equitable way to go forward.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. And, I would be, I think as the school year starts, happy as my first duty as point person to start looking at that corporate sponsorship type of thing around the school that I can bring back to you. And that can be a yearly thing every year. If we get things in the gym with corporate sponsors, then we can look at that as well.
So, just to be clear, I'm not pushing this off. It's either going to be the next meeting or the first meeting in August that we'll have some kind of answer on how we're going to divide this. Hopefully, it's something that mirrors this kind of outline, because I think, again, that's probably the most equitable and gets the most done. But we need to get some quotes to see what covers those costs and then go from there. Anybody else want to add anything?
No,
Ed?
I just think it's going to work out very good with you as a point person. You got some people with you here that are very passionate. You stepped up to the plate, presented the program, did a nice job with it, and that's going to work out just fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
And thank the other people for appointing them.
I'm comfortable with Mr. Day beginning to pursue some of those sponsorships. Do we need to give him permission to do that formally?
Do we need him to do that as a private citizen, or does we have to?
Well, I can also, being summer, and I'm sure I may enlist some help in trying to do that. So I'm okay with, if you want me to wait till the next meeting too, as we get through summer, and I can get a group of people together that are helping me work with it, and then we may be able to accomplish more with some corporate sponsorships. Or
I guess I feel like whatever you think is going to work best is what.
I don't think we have to give him explicit permission to get information, do we?
No, I mean, I think at some point, though, you should, I know Jim said he's talked to the superintendent, but I think the board should have a conversation with Dr. Mulqueen if there's specific size signs,
Right.
or if there's specific dimensions. I would caution, I think, a little bit on putting corporate sponsorships out back. I think where the elementary school kids are really gonna be, I don't know that you'd really want, corporate sponsorships on that sort of grass field. But I think if we can use the gym and things like that, or even like right behind the baseball fields on those backstops, but not, because we're putting in a cedar fence, so you really couldn't put any signs around there.
oh, okay, cedar fence
It will
is
be a
going in.
cedar fence through the majority of it. But I think absolutely, I think you could certainly see if there's an interest. I think this board would have to come up with a dollar amount and a way to take those funds. So we don't have a revolving account. That
Right.
would require town meeting to create a revolving account. So I think there's gonna be some process. But if you see if there's interest or, just do some research on your end, then this board can do sort of their work in establishing a process for that.
Sounds great. Sure.
Just a composite sketch of some great ideas. Maybe you can ask Matt to plus it up to 6,500, take care of the front and the back. And then what happens after that, going forward 2 fiscal years from now? You increase that amount by 2%, but you still flatline Matt at 6,500, but that 2% increase comes from the town budget, so that in 10 years, he'll have like $7,200 to play with, but he doesn't get more than 6,500. And then in terms of Lisa's idea, which is great, if you really wanted to, you could give Mr. Day, Jim, a special charge, just so to set some expectations, but more importantly, people can be difficult. you know, it could be very easily misconstrued that he's representing the town or he's involved in the bidding process or negotiating. So a simple document that he's agreeable to, a special charge, renewable every year, kind of give him some guidelines, who he reports to and so forth, just makes things more transparent and prevents any potential problems. Just some ideas. Thank you.
I just want to make sure too, Mr. Day, due to your position in the school with the district, that there's no conflict of interest that'll put you in a position that you're either uncomfortable with or put you at risk of your employment. Or, you know, I don't want to see you get in trouble by trying to be a nice guy. And I don't want to imply that you should be the point person. I think it should be, as the school is a living, breathing entity, we'll say, just much like the GBL, as parents come and children come and go, those batons should just be passed from generation to generation to generation, and a new group of volunteers step up to the plate, much like GBL or soccer or football or any other, you know, volunteer organization, so that you don't feel you have to stay there till you're, you know, 172, and, you know, got to dig you up to get your opinion after that. So hopefully you can set up some kind of organization like that that continues long after we're all gone.
I think that that is the plan. I think some of us have discussed that already, that we would look to joining with a group that may be already existing at the Bagnell and try to form that group that will help with the grounds and be able to do that. And I agree with you. I will definitely be reaching out to Dr. Mulqueen to make sure, by me being in this position or doing this, that there is no conflict of interest or any kind of problems that I would be getting myself into by doing that.
Yeah, I hate to see you get harmed by, again, but as the old axiom goes, no good deed goes unpunished, does it?
Right. Thank you.
Okay, that's it. We'll let you know.
All right, thank you all.
All right,
Appreciate it.
thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to Casey Bailey, Zoning Board Chair, requesting a waiver for a ZBA hearing. So, some background on this. Casey is the chair for the zoning board, and they're. No one's ever said that. No one's ever said that. Huh? All right, so Casey's the chair of the zoning board. She is an abutter to a proposal that came forward of 21 Elm Park. So she recused herself from voting on that meeting or being a participant in that meeting. The problem is that we do not have enough people to have a quorum on the zoning board without Casey. So she had filed a letter with the state for disclosure and basically determination by this board whether or not she should be allowed to hear that hearing on 21 Main Street. I cannot be part of that meeting also because I'm a butter to that property. So Casey has asked that we grant her an approval that she basically sits on that board to hear this, this proposal to go forward. So she has sent in this disclosure form that she had submitted to the state. And I believe, I did talk to her since she's my neighbor, that she would be impartial and basically conduct herself as someone on the zoning board should, about hearing the facts of the submission and then determining her decision from there. So that's the background. Denise, you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something just to clarify. So since you did reappoint Jason Norman tonight, they do have a full board, so it's not.
With
and
Casey.
It's not an, correct.
Yeah.
So they do have all 5 members, so it's not as much a quorum issue anymore, as long as everyone else could make it.
Right.
Her concern is if someone couldn't make it, or if something else came up. She could not be here tonight, she got called out of town. So she regrets that, but did send her disclosure. This board, as the appointing authority, has the right to say that you feel that she can make an impartial decision and you can waive her recusal, so.
The other option to this is to have her recuse herself and then appoint Bill Dunn as an appointment to the zoning board for one meeting, allowing him to sit and determine the application as a non-included resident. So, anybody have any comments on that?
I don't have a problem with Casey. I know she did the paperwork she needed to do. I know she's an attorney. I know she's a smart person, and she wouldn't involve herself in anything that she couldn't do or was gonna be impartial to. So I don't have a problem appointing her to hear that case.
I just have a question, because I didn't see this here, but, so she's made a statement that she feels that she can be impartial?
Yes.
Okay, because if she's made that statement, I'm comfortable with it.
Bill?
Yeah, based on the other two selectmen, I'm comfortable with her credibility. I just wonder if she wants to put herself through that. And, you know, I always try to avoid those situations and make sure that there's not even the possible hint of impropriety that could ever come back. So I wonder if, you know, she might want to do that just to remove any doubt. But I have no problem, based on the recommendations of the two selectmen, to go along with the appointment. I just worry more for her sake that
Right.
if she can eliminate that potential.
Ed?
I don't have any problem with her. I think she's a pretty reasonable person, and she'll file all of the paperwork. I feel comfortable letting her sit on the board and hear this particular case.
Okay, well, it sounds like we're all in pretty much agreement on this. So does someone want to make a motion allowing Casey to partake in this application?
I'll make a motion that we appoint Casey Bailey, zoning board chair, her request of a waiver of the ZBA hearing being held. I don't actually have the date,
I think it's the 19th.
the 19th of July.
If I may, Bill, can you add a slight amendment and just add that it's for 21 Elm Park, just so you can list it?
And it's for 21 Elm Park in Groveland.
And could I respectfully add, because she believes that she can be impartial and she's provided all the necessary paperwork for that? Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? All right. Moving on, we have the Route 97 update,
And they're not here.
and they're not here. All
They're
right,
out in the hallway. I can go check.
no, we'll move on. We'll go to votes of the board.
Well, can we talk about that? Just a little bit? I mean, I know there were some questions raised in the last meeting. Is it okay with you?
Yeah, I was just gonna wait for them to come in, but yeah.
Oh,
No, go
well,
ahead.
no,
No,
I
go ahead.
mean, the dust control, I've watched them, they've got a truck out there that has like a water spigot in the front of it, they're driving it up and down the road 2-3 times a day. So I know the dust issue's been taken care of, I saw them out there doing that. Other than that, I don't know, but I just wanted to make
Well,
a,
I did see that they paved that far section
Yeah.
closest to Georgetown.
Yep.
That looks great. They're gonna work on the sidewalks, and then they're slowly moving that project to the Bagnell section and then up the road, closer towards the center of town. So, it is a big project. It is a need for drainage. I know people are frustrated with the roads and the condition of the roads and how long it takes for the backups and stuff, but it is something that is necessary. It would be worse if the roads were flooded, trust me. So I know it's an inconvenience and I know it's aggravating, but for 30 years, those roads have been the way they were. So it's time that they get dug up, the infrastructure gets redone, drainage gets appropriately done,
Finishing up a phone call.
repaved, and then everyone can be on their merry way for the next fall.
Get the heavy hitters today.
You guys are up. Yeah, if you go to the microphone. introduce yourself and
That's passing the buck.
There you go. Bill Keaveney,
First guy in the room.
General Manager from AR Belly.
so you're gonna give us an update basically on the project, how it's going, what the timelines are, so everyone can have kind of an idea of what to expect as the road gets kind of moved closer to the center of town.
Okay. First phase is, you probably saw the job got split basically in two phases in the roadway portion. First phase is completed with the first layer of bituminous paving. Curb operations will start on that section on Thursday of this week. And then curb and sidewalk on the south side, I think if I got it right, will follow up. And then when they get to the end of that phase, they'll start the curbing on the opposite side of the roadway. Ongoing at the same time, the second phase has been reclaimed. That's the process where we come in, grind up the existing pavement, mix it with the sub-base to make the material that's left as a basement coarse material. The excavation and grading of that piece is ongoing. The injection portion of that work, which is the new process that we do, that they inject the liquid asphalt into that material to give it a texture like asphalt, takes the place of the old base coarse material. It used to be three course of asphalt in a roadway of this type base. The old nomenclature was base, binder, and top. They now have intermediate designations for the new specifications. But the asphalt injection takes the place of the old base. The asphalt that you see, or the bituminous that you see in the first section, is the intermediate course, and then at the end of the project, the finished course gets paved. The injection for that next section is scheduled for the 26th of this month, and the pavement for that section is scheduled to start on the 31st of this month. Once that gets done, that schedule is tied in that the crew doing the curb work and the sidewalk work in phase one should just about be completing, so they will immediately go into doing the curb and the sidewalk on phase two.
How far towards the center of town is this project going?
The limit that you see now, I don't know if you've driven the project
Yep.
recently, that's the limit of work.
All right, so it's not gonna go any further down that first incline? and
That's
then
it.
Okay.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions?
Are you guys ahead of schedule, or are you behind schedule?
On the original project schedule, we are behind. The original project had quite a different design matrix for the roadway. It was a kind of a patchwork of full depth excavation, which is the old style, you bring the excavation equipment in, and a mixture of cold planing, which is you just do milling, and they have a new tack system that what they call a SAMI, an intermediate layer. We went back through Mass DOT, through the engineer, and worked over the course of the winter to get it changed to this process. It's kind of three advantages to this process. On the other one, the first was cost. It's a little less expensive than doing the mix of what the old was. It's actually faster. There's no way that we would have been able to start excavation on a project like this, even doing the patchwork, and get it completed as quickly as these two phases will be done. And then the third and very important thing was safety. Because of the way the other one laid out, it was we didn't feel it was really the best way to handle it for traffic. We know you're driving on a dirt roadway out there now, but it's a compacted dirt roadway, and it handles traffic pretty well. So there was three reasons why we did it. Of course, like I said, it took a while to go through a whole process, so by the time we were able to start in the spring, we were behind. However, we're catching up pretty much every day, and we'll be done probably a little bit beyond the original completion date, but we'll be done well before the end of the construction season this year.
My second piece is, I know part of that project was to widen the sidewalks going south. That would be going toward Boston.
Okay?
And I noticed they were out there working, they haven't pulled the curbings. Does that mean that they're not gonna widen them sidewalks on that side, or they come out later and pull the curbs,
There's only
reset 'em?
sidewalk designed on, is that the south side going towards Boston? Yeah. So any of the sidewalks that were done now were just because we were going through this process, we wanted to get some work done.
Yeah.
So any sidewalks that are in place, still in place now, are gonna
Yeah.
be removed and
Okay.
replaced.
And they'll widen them or whatever.
Right. The
Yeah.
only area that, they're definitely wider. As you get down towards the limit of the project, heading towards downtown, there's a small section at the end where the sidewalk's going to be more in line with the width it is now, because it was actually a slight, what they call a blow in a survey line. So they lost a few inches of proposed sidewalk width at the end of the project. But they are wider than what was out there.
I know, like the road under construction, so you gotta be able to put up with some discomfort, but it looks nice out there after you get the binder down on that phase one. But on Salem Street, the end would be just west of the Chinese restaurant where the old pavement joins where you've dug up.
Yeah.
I was through there this afternoon, and for the life of me, I can't figure out why you can't fill some of those holes. And, you know, there's quite a grade when you go down and you're heading, we'd be heading southbound. And it would be just north, if you can picture this,
Okay,
where the new pavement starts.
right,
Just north of that in the southbound lane.
okay.
There was a water gate, I think it was a water gate that was there, and it was probably a depression of over a foot. And I saw more vehicles in front of me. I'm up and down that street all day long. And if you know where it was, but I don't understand why they couldn't have filled that. These people, I thought they were on a roller coaster ride. And I know you've got to put up with some kind of inconvenience, but the holes in the road, I don't know why you can't run something over it and fill some of those up.
Well, and I wasn't aware of that particular situation. That's not something we want to do, because trust me, if someone has a tire or a problem, I get the call on replacing the tire, so that's I don't need the headache. It is, the thing with the reclaim is until it gets fully compacted the first time, it does tend to unravel a little bit. But we do have provisions to run grader over it, to fill the holes as we go, and so we'll try to keep addressing these things. And,
Just
you know,
some of the, from the businesses up in that business area where you did the first phase.
Yeah.
The dust, the poor guy that ran the used car lot down there, it would just cake with dust. The customers' cars at some of the other places. But that wasn't a big complaint. It was when they left at night, there was such a large accumulation in the middle of the road so that people couldn't take a left turn into any of the businesses.
yeah, the windrow from the center of the
Exactly.
highway.
Exactly.
And that's part of the function of that operation. But some of that also is that when you're running on a dirt road like that, we don't like to have a lot of crossover traffic because it tends to be somewhat of a hazard. I know that the turn's there once it's paved, but because the speeds are different, again, these are things that we can look at addressing as we go forward.
What
So-
happened is, it was one thing in the business district, that people couldn't get in and out of some of the businesses because they couldn't cross the road. Now, when you're entering into the residential area, you got people want to take left turns into their houses. And I haven't been down that new section, I've certainly.
I
had
think
the
if you,
sense
I
to
think
go
if you ride the new section, because I just came through tonight again, I didn't really notice any significant windrow down the center of that section. I think because we've already started the excavation portion and had the grader back and forth and rolling it out there. Again, we're happy to look at whatever concerns you have, but I think if you ride that piece right now, people can turn left and right at their
And
leisure.
What is your plans for the dust management on the section that you're doing now? Because it wasn't really working on the first phase.
We're watering, the one drawback to this procedure is that because of the new materials that they use, that the two forms of dust control that are generally used on highway is water, quite frankly, just water. And then they use chemicals, generally calcium chloride. The calcium chloride breaks down the oils in this new product, so we can't use it. So what we've talked about this with the state engineer actually just today, going to be a much more aggressive watering program. Rather than twice a day, we're going to do it 3 or 4 times a day. We did have provisions for people to come up the Saturday and the Monday over the long holiday weekend to actually run the water truck, even though the crew wasn't working. But we did speak about that just today with the Mass DOT people about being a little more aggressive with the watering.
I think I noticed was after a heavy rainstorm in phase one, where actually on the weekend, I think it was one of the engineers come out with a machine and actually filled in some of the craters that had developed. But do you, maybe you can give phone numbers to the selectmen or the finance director, so if any of the residents have complaints, that they can, should maybe get it on our website, that who to call, who to yell at. The engineer, I know the office is up there by Nicole's,
Right.
and but maybe, you know, there's probably somebody in the office most of the time, they're probably the ones that are gonna get the complaint.
Well, I'm just, Richard, you want Ray as well as Brian's numbers, or do you want, okay.
And we don't need you, you're a gentleman enough to stand up to the plate here and give the whole,
Well,
so
the two
throw it back on these other two
No,
guys that
the
wouldn't step up.
Two numbers I'm gonna
I would
give you.
email them to Denise.
All right, I'll do that. The two numbers you're gonna get, the two people that are full-time in the job, one is my representative, Brian, who's the project manager, and the other is Ray Orsini, who's the resident engineer for the state. We'll provide you both with their cell phone numbers.
Okay.
And maybe we get that on our website, so we can maybe take down some of the less
There you
phone
go,
calls
yeah.
for us. Thank you.
Can you, the people that are watching on TV, can you kind of do a quick overlay of what it's gonna look like? I mean, landscape trees, new islands, is it too confusing to go over that?
No, it's really a fairly straightforward project.
Yeah.
You're going to have new curbing on both sides of the roadway. There's one small section that they designated to use some of the old curbing. As far as like decorative work, there's really not a lot. You'll have concrete sidewalk and asphalt driveways on again, I think that's the south side all the way down. The intersection at the Chinese restaurant is being reconfigured to straighten that out. There's the ones flashing traffic control there. The only other issues as far as traffic controls are the speed for the school zones. There's 2 school zone signs going in. There's a little bit of wall reconstruction work, 3 sections of that being done. And then there's some lumen seed, and that's really about the extent of the project.
Weren't we having was there going to be a light at, pedestrian access light at Center Street and School Street?
When talk about that, the school zone signs are going there, but there's no
There was
full.
supposed to be, I think Bob had said that there was gonna be some, for the rail trail at some point.
I think that's part of the Complete Streets project that
Right.
we're working on, that's separate from
That's
this
not,
project.
that's not, I've heard discussions about that, but that's not part of our
That doesn't mean
project.
that that's gonna be dug
No,
up
so
again.
no sidewalks on both sides of the road?
No.
At the least if they
When is
finish.
your rough,
No, it
not holding,
works.
your completion date? What are you shooting for a completion date?
We'd like to be out of there by, officially, the completion date again was late August, but that will have to be extended. We'd like to be out of there by mid-October, but you'll have what we call beneficial use of that before that. The goal is to try to get the curb and sidewalk down at least to the school entrance by Labor Day, and then finish the rest of the work, and then finish pavement and signage and striping comes in at the end of the project, which would be late September, early October.
So you're looking to do final pavement before the punch list in October,
Yes.
end of September, 1st of
Yeah.
October? Everybody's shaking their head, they're all in agreement.
Lisa, any questions? Bill, anything?
I'm just thinking, late October, that's gonna make a mess around the school, especially first day of school. I mean, we get people from other planets come for the first day of school around here.
Well, as I said, what the schedule now is that if we're paving that section of roadway the first week of August, that gives us at least a 3-week window to do curb and sidewalk in the area of the school. I mean, we may actually skip beyond where we leave off in phase 1 down to the school area, so we get a couple of blocks on either side of the school completed before school gets open. And then we have the rest of September to finish the curb and sidewalk work.
Because I know they line the streets, park cars on both sides for half, 3/4 of a mile each way.
School's big around here.
Well, I mean, frankly.
Football's big in Texas, first
tell it-
day of school is big here.
Is it?
First Monday after Labor Day, I think.
No, before then.
Oh, no, it's after
No, it's
Labor
after
Day.
Labor
Labor Day's
It's
early.
the first year.
I think it's the 5th.
Wow.
I think it's Tuesday the 5th.
I think it's the 5th.
Wow, I know.
Yeah.
What happened?
Believe so.
Somebody finally get through to,
Well, that's good, that gives us another week.
Off the top of your head, is there gonna be a grassed area between the curbing and the sidewalk? Or is the sidewalk gonna go right up to the curbing?
There's areas, I think there's no sidewalk, yeah, well, that's what I thought, yeah.
So
Sidewalk, no grass strip,
Thank you. Good choice.
yeah.
More
Exactly.
Well,
maintenance. We
I
just
see
had a
some
long
of the,
meeting about maintenance.
some of the projects, especially like through the business area, that, most of the business owners don't have a lawnmower to cut that.
Looks good for a season, and then,
It
yeah,
looks good
then
for a
it's-
season
that's it,
until the salt gets in there.
exactly.
if they bought one, it'd be good for the economy.
I think we're good.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
thanks.
All right. So next we have votes of the board. We have the minutes from June 12th, 2017.
I read those over, they look to be in order. I'll make a motion for passage.
Get a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
We have the final fiscal year 17 transfers. How would you like us to do this?
Well, I'll just discuss them briefly, and then however you'd like to vote, is fine with me. So you have 2 sheets that I emailed out, and that I gave copies of here tonight. There's general fund transfers, and then a few things to clean up on the water side. The general fund is pretty much as we expected, because we did the majority of the transfers the last meeting. This is as a result of closing out the year and after the final payroll and payables. So really nothing too much of a surprise. The big item we talked about at the last meeting with the transfers was the debt, because we borrowed it after the budget. There was some, we didn't know what the rates were gonna be, so there were some changes there, and that's actually what affected the water side as well. So a couple little things, in my line, the education, the cost to bond myself and the staff just continues to increase. It's almost half of my entire expense budget now. So that $335 is just to cover one of the additional bonding bills that came in.
Why is it becoming so expensive?
It's just the cost of insurance. Nothing's changed on our end, but just the cost of having an insurance policy to bond us. It just increases. The police, education incentives, that was as a result of one of the sergeants being, his shift changed mid-year. He was on a day shift and went to a night shift that had a differential, so that was just a slight shortfall there. Their fuel line, we thought, we actually transferred money out of the fuel line, and then they got a bill on June 29th, so we thought we were good with that line until that last bill came in. Firefighter wages, we've talked about that, so $4,500. He actually had enough money in his overall budget to transfer to, but it's cleaner if we take it from an account that has enough money to supplement, so we're not making a whole bunch of transfers. The cemetery part-time wages, that was over just slightly. Their supply line, again, over a little bit. They had some expenses that they were, was unforeseen for them. Veterans benefits, unfortunately, same thing. We transferred money out of the veterans line, because we had so much budgeted, and then we got a few extra. That's just sort of the luck of what bills come in each month for veterans and what needs coverage. So we're just moving that from one veterans line to another. The debt line, and then the Medicare tax. So the Medicare tax is actually probably the most surprising, so we will need to adjust that number as salaries are increasing, as overtime is increasing, as everything is increasing. Our Medicare tax line is increasing, obviously. So we have not increased it enough in the last few years to account for our total annual payroll. That's where it's going to. You can see where we're transferring from. Again, in finance, we're just moving it from one line to another. Insurance, we had about $29,000 left in our insurance line, the health insurance line. So that's covering a bulk of it, just again, so we don't have to make a whole bunch of transfers. We can just debit that one account and move it over. Police, he's covering his shortfalls there. Fire, he has extra money in his fuel line, so we'll just clean that out and then take the rest from the insurance line. cemeteries covering their own, and then veterans. So that is the general fund transfers. On the water enterprise fund, it's the long-term debt. So they are just shuffling what's left in their other lines to cover, that deficit.
Should this be the last of the transfers?
This is the last of the transfers. Transfers have to be made by July 15th in order for us to close the year. So you all are tonight, Finance Board is meeting Wednesday night to approve them as well.
So do you want us to do this as two separate approvals, or do you want us to do it individual transfers?
I don't think you need to do it individually. You could certainly do, you could do two, one for water, one for general fund, and just use the dollar amount if you'd like. Or if you want to do it as one, it's really preference, but it's not necessary.
All right, does someone want to make a motion for start with the general fund?
Or if there are questions before you vote, I can certainly answer them.
I make a motion that we make the transfers that are outlined in the general fund handout that Denise provided. Do we need to go through them item by item, or can we just reference the document?
I think just reference the documents, all right. We get a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion or questions for Denise? Bill?
I have a quick question. I know the only line you can overspend legally is snow and ice removal, right? But here in Groveland, we're kind of faced with a unique situation where we have a call fire department. Most cities and towns, they have full-time fire departments. They know what their budget is going to be for a full year. There's not a lot of unpredictability there. With the call fire department, it's just as unpredictable as how much snow and ice you're going to get in a year. You take a summer like we had last year, so dry, it's amazing that we didn't triple our budget with forest fires, brush fires, not to mention mutual aid to other towns. I know, Mr. Chairman Wood, that you are going to have a meeting with Senator Tarr, or you had one.
Going to.
Is this something we can bring up to the legislature to say, you know, call fire departments are really different by nature than regular full-time fire departments, and based on their unpredictability? And Chief Lay, I'm not recommending or endorsing or condoning in any way you spend more money on wages. Far be it from me. But just as a way to, I mean, there's got to be some logic behind this, because right now it's so unpredictable. You have no clue when that fire bell rings what you're getting into, whether it's a one-alarm, fire, grease fire, or whether A.W. Chesterton is fully engulfed.
You're fully able to reach out to Senator Tarr or Representative Mira, or even the Fire Chief Lay himself, and have discussions to, get an understanding of what might be available, or, what the process is, or what other towns that have call fire departments are doing to kind of prepare for an overages in that budget. You don't have to go through me.
I just thought you had a relationship with him, maybe that.
I've talked to him.
I'm trying. Hey,
times.
I'm trying to leverage some.
If you took the budget from the last 2 or 3 years, and I guess you really can't go and say, well, last year was this much, should we increase it this much? You can't. It's a call department, like you say. There's no predictability about how much it's going to be.
Once that bell rings, nobody knows.
Right, so one of the things, so the difference is, so a call department, we have to cover by the end of the year and make sure that those deficits are covered. Snow and ice, you can legally leave a deficit on the books and then cover it in the following year's tax recap. So that's really the difference. As long as we're able to transfer and cover those expended wages that we weren't anticipating, I would say that's probably what they'll say is our recourse. Is budget as you can, and then through either these transfers or a town meeting mid-year, if you're seeing things spike, you could move money at that point. But I think, other than that, I don't know that there's any formula that we could use or any, magic ball to get us an amount.
There's not, just like there's no magic wand to
Right.
predict how much snow you're going to get in the winter, how heavy, how light, how often. I'm just looking for a way to kind of avoid that, but I guess you can't. That was my only comment.
All right, any other comments on the general fund transfer? Ed?
No.
Bill? All right, so we have a second. All those in favor? All right, so can we get a motion for the water enterprise fund?
Motion to approve the water enterprise fund transfer as documented in Denise's spreadsheet.
Can we get a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussions or comments? Bill? No? Lisa? Ed?
No.
Bill? No? All right, all those in favor? All right. Next up, we have the Certificate of Achievement to Benjamin Donald Wilson for attaining the rank of Eagle Scout. Someone want to read the award?
So, just to comment
Yep.
on that, so, when someone is being, I guess, promoted, inducted, I don't really know what they, honored, to the rank of Eagle Scout, we get a request from a troop leader and ask them for the certificate. I know in the past, you've asked them to come in here. The reason I didn't extend it is because they give them these certificates at their ceremony, which is actually coming up quite soon, and it's here, right here in Groveland, on August 5th at the Congregational Church. If any of you would like to attend, you are welcome to, so.
And what was his project?
His project was, the Crane Pond Wildlife Management Area in Groveland. He cleared a parking area that was overgrown, allowed for easier access for emergency services and hunters, and he constructed 2 information kiosks where safety and hunting information can be posted.
So the board hereby presents the Certificate of Achievement to Benjamin Donald Wilson in recognition of his achievement of attaining the rank of Eagle Scout. Congratulations, Benjamin, on achieving your goal. We are proud to have you as a member of our community and appreciate your efforts and your work at the Crane Pond Wildlife Management Area in Groveland. We applaud you for working to clear the overgrown parking area, allowing for easier access for hunters and emergency services. In addition, the 2 information kiosks you constructed will provide greater resources for all those who use the area. We wish you the best of luck in the future. Signed by the Groveland Board of Selectmen.
Okay. Next up, we have,
Can you just vote on, just formally
Vote to
vote on
approve it?
giving him the certificate?
sure, can we make a motion?
I make a motion that we grant that certificate pursuant to the language that I just read.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? All right, old business. Ed?
I don't have anything.
Yeah, a couple things. Has the town accountant started, the new town accountant started?
Yes, Ellen began last Wednesday. And since you've asked, I just will take this time to really thank both her, Ellen Petrillo, and Patricia Rogers, my assistant treasurer, for the work they did last week and today, getting the payroll changes, the final payroll and accounts payable for fiscal 17, and the first payroll and accounts payable for fiscal 18. They really worked tremendously to get those done. And we were actually printing checks at 5:30 tonight to make sure you all had them tonight to see and sign. So I just want to thank them both for their hard work.
And one more thing, have you heard any more back on the pavilion damage that was done down there as far as getting that fixed?
Yes, I spoke with Kevin Cuniff, who visited last week, and he will give me a quote tomorrow.
That covered by insurance?
Yes, it is. I'd reached out to some other local construction guys, and no one got back to me about giving a quote. So Kevin was the only one who actually took it on. I spoke with him today. He had gone out there. He's writing up an estimate. So once insurance approves that, then we can get that work done.
All set, Bill?
Right now, yep.
Bill O'Neill?
I don't know if this comes under old business or not, I guess you can stop me if not. Paving on Main Street, nice work. Looks, it's much more drivable than it was just a couple of weeks ago. Now, if we could just get Gardner Street to that same point. I know it's 25 miles an hour on that street, and I try to go slow, but I don't think we need a speed bump every 22 and a half feet. That's where the project started, isn't it? So it's kind of odd that they did Main Street, and my compliments to the chef there, they come out well. If they could just do Gardner Street, then they'd really have a happy customer here. Governor's Road. I've been down Governor's Road. It's actually paved.
Come on. Really?
It drove nice.
Wow.
There's still some raised fixtures, manhole covers.
For a few more weeks.
But overall, I'm hoping that the residents of Governor's Road can feel finally that this project is coming to an end, that their street will be one of the finest streets in Groveland when it's over. But I drove it down there just the other day, just out of sake of curiosity, and I was pleasantly surprised by the work that's been done there. So that's kudos to those guys over there, too.
On that note, 2 weeks, or you said a couple weeks, is that just waiting for the pavement contractor to come back?
To be honest with you, I don't know, Bill. I just had a conversation with Bob Arcanian on Friday, and he said they were out there raising those structures, and it'll be a few weeks before I don't know how.
Probably waiting for the contractor, maybe.
I don't know what they wait for.
It looked like they're all raised, and they have them all marked and everything.
Yes.
Probably the contractors are all busy.
Reviewing the CPA's, the audit. There was an amount in here that I wanted to get some more foul. Here it is. The year-end balance of the library trust was $120,795, is that correct?
Yeah, it was fiscal 16, so I'm not
Fiscal
entirely,
16.
if he wrote it, I'm assuming it's correct, yes.
How is that invested?
It's not,
It's not.
it's not.
Savings account?
Do we,
No.
any kind of interest at all?
They
Anything?
have it in, it gets like 87 cents to $1 a month. It's in a-
87?
It's actually in a checking account.
Does Warren Buffett know about this secret? 87 cents. I mean, that's, at the best, it's fiscal irresponsibility. At the worst, it's negligence. How can you only get 120,000? I mean, 80,
Would you like that invested in something else?
well, I mean, my goodness. 82, what did you say?
Well, it fluctuates. It's usually, I mean, I don't think it goes lower than 87 cents, and it stops right above $1 on an average monthly interest statement.
On $121,000. Is that the best use of those funds? Is that, is that how hard we're gonna make that money work for the town? For the library, for the patrons of that library? I think this needs to be addressed beyond just a simple report on an audit. I mean, this is, in the meantime, taxpayers continue to fund the library when this money could earn much more than it does at present time. Do you have investment vehicles for the other town accounts?
Yes.
Do they earn considerably more or roughly the same or less?
Considerably more.
Considerably more.
Well, I can tell you the OPEB account that we started last year with 85,000, I get anywhere between $600 and $1,000 a month in interest.
A month. That would go a long way. That could do some great things over there, wouldn't it? Just saying. Next. You want to expound on that? Go
No,
ahead,
no, I was
because
just wondering
I'm
if you were
baffled.
requesting an agenda item, or if you would like to have them come in to talk about that, or?
Maybe we should, and I just don't think it's the most efficient use of that money, considering what Denise had just told us about what she can gain on 2/3 or 3/4, 2/3 of that money. It seems preposterous that we're only gaining such a little money. It seems irresponsible.
Okay. Do you have a point?
I just wanted to comment that some of the accounts have restrictions about how they can be used and invested. So I would want to hear from the library trustees whether there are any barriers in that case, because some of them do have specific instructions about what you can and can't do with them. So that would be something that I'd want to hear more about.
On the same tone, have we ever heard anything about back from, I know when Mr. Dunn was chairman, he reached out a couple of times to get their attorney's opinions, but was unsuccessful in that endeavor. Has that ever been resolved or carried through, or?
Not to me. I don't know if they've reached out to the board. I don't know.
So it would be difficult to ascertain how these funds were supposed to be or invested or restricted from investment if we can't even find the documents.
Nothing was submitted to the town from council on behalf of the library?
Not to me anyways. I was not included if it was. We've never heard back from them or their council.
Okay.
However, as far back as 1998 or 88, town received opinion from town councils that this money should have been turned over to the town. So we're in an impasse for a number of decades. And I think time is now to really, I mean,
Right, and just to
let's
clarify that statement,
fish or cut bait.
right, so just to clarify though, the money was not to be turned over to the town. It was to be under the custody of the treasurer for investment purposes. It would still be the library's money for them to spend, but it was for us to invest.
But
Just
if-
I wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, but if they could gain, we'll say $12,000 a year in interest, I mean, that does a lot of nice things. A lot of nice things. And to do anything else is just, I hesitate to use the word foolish, but, okay, yeah. make-
If you were to take the cemetery perpetual fee, yeah. sure.
Perpetual care.
Yeah, funds, period. What kind of interest are they making on their money? Do you know offhand?
Yes, we make about 4%, several hundred a month, so that's in a special cemetery.
Several hundred a month, $2,400 a year or something like that. It's not like a lot. I mean, 4%, still 4%.
Yeah,
Better
yeah,
than
but that's
$12.
invested in a specific fund that only handles cemeteries.
Right.
So they know how to invest for the perpetual care.
Beats $12.
Does defeat $12. Bill, anything else?
Yeah, I just have one more thing, because people in town have been asking me. Town clerk's office, they've been coming and not sure, like, their set hours, what are the hours?
Monday, 9 AM to 8 PM. In the summer, Tuesday through Thursday, 9 to 4:30. Closed on Fridays.
Every Friday through the whole summer?
Yes. And then in October, I think it is, she's back to Fridays, 9 to 12.
Is that posted on the website and on
Yeah,
the
it's
door?
on our front door and on our website.
Okay, good. You know, the building is open on Friday, so people are assuming that it's business as usual for
Yes.
all the departments.
Although I will say it's like a ghost town on Fridays because several offices are closed on Fridays, just because, the building inspector's not here, conservation's not here. It's just the way it is on Fridays, unfortunately.
Good enough. I'm through. Thank you, sir.
No old business, thank you.
All right, I have a couple of things. So as Bill alluded to, I am meeting with Senator Tarr next Monday at the State House. As I've stated, I've had a couple of conversations with him. I've informed the board of everything that I've done with him. I've asked Bill Dunn to go with me as well as Denise. One, because Bill is interested in the senior center and pursuing that project and making sure that that gets the attention it needs. And secondly, Denise, because she has a lot of background knowledge and information on the town and any procurement that would come through the town, she would be involved in. So what we'll do is we'll go down and have the meeting and report back to the board what happens, what kind of information we get, some options that may be available to us, and kind of decide as a group what we want to do with the senior center and with the lot downtown. Did you want to make a comment about the guy who came in for the realty?
I mean, other than a Realtor came in today saying that he was representing the gas station in the square, and he said there's been some interest, so he was checking on the tax status. So that's really all I know.
So there is maybe somebody interested in buying it. The other thing that came up was I got an email from Lisa, basically accusing me of acting outside the chair.
That wasn't the language.
It wasn't? No, that's what I read. So do you want to clarify?
I could read it to you, because it didn't say, it didn't accuse, it just said that my understanding is the role of the chair.
Right, and I'm, as a selectman and as a resident, still permitted to talk to my state rep and my representative, not as chair, but as a person, just like you are available to talk to anybody in town on a topic, and Ed is available to talk to anyone in town about a topic.
But I
And
can't make
Bill is.
decisions. I can't make
I'm
decisions.
not
about-
making decisions.
I-
I'm going and talking to them about options available to the town, and I have stated that I am talking to him at every point at a selectman meeting. So I
So
don't
I-
understand what
Well,
your,
I think those disclosures need to be made before the fact and not after the fact. So if there's an intent,
well, this goes back to a year ago when he came in and did a presentation of the downtown project.
right, but
And
if
then
there's,
he-
if there's a plan to have a meeting, the meeting should be disclosed prior to the meeting, not after the meeting.
So if I went to have lunch with Senator Tar to talk about any number of things, I need to tell the board that I'm going to have lunch with Senator Tar.
If you're going to talk about Board of Selectmen issues, I would say yes.
So that would go for anybody else on here, this
Mhm.
board, that needs to say where they're gonna go at any given time.
If it's related to conducting town business. And I've reached out to Jonathan Blodgett's office to get clarification on this. And I will certainly provide the guidance that they provide about what it says about open meeting. But my understanding is that whenever there's a discussion about town issues,
So does that go for when Selectman Watson has his office hours? Or you're meeting with someone from the CPC,
PC.
Community Preservation Committee?
Those are open meetings. Well, excuse me, the CPC is an open meeting.
All right, well, I'm not at those meetings, so how do I know that, what's being discussed?
Well,
Or
you
some of
have-
them weren't
you have-
even.
You have the right to be there. It's an
Well,
open
You
meeting.
don't have, you have the right to be at any meeting that I'm going to, other
Not if I-
than,
Not if I don't know about it.
well, other than three of us being in the same meeting location.
Well, again, it depends on what's being discussed. And I think I've been reading through this, and again, I've reached out to,
I understand that. I've been here for 2 years. I understand
well, I'm
the
gonna get-
meeting and the open meeting law and basically the tone of the email. And to be honest with you, you've already accused Bill of things that were found to be false. And now you're trying to accuse me of things that I'm not doing. All I'm doing is trying to find out what's available to the town. That is it.
again, accuse is not the word. And secondly, I think, part of due diligence is ensuring that I'm following the proper process. I've been reading through the materials, and that's why I'm seeking guidance. And if I'm wrong, I will state that I'm wrong. I have no problem with that. But I'm gonna seek guidance. I'm new at this, and I'm gonna seek guidance and
understand
do
the
it the proper
guidance.
way.
My problem is when you are stating things either to me or to the board or to the public, and they come to be wrong, the damage is already done. Whether you apologize afterward or not is irrelevant.
Well, again, I respectfully disagree that I think we have a different view about what's kind of appropriate discussion outside of the meetings.
Yeah. I have nothing to hide with what I'm discussing with anybody. I'm fully open with who I'm meeting with and what they were talking about.
But when it happens after the fact, that's the piece that I'm talking about. So that's the piece that I'm looking for guidance on.
It's impossible to state that I'm going to meet with someone about XYZ when I'm on the street talking to someone. Or if someone calls me tomorrow morning, say, Mike, do you have 10 minutes to come meet me down here to talk about something? So I have to tell them to wait until the next meeting so I can disclose that I'm going to meet with Joe about this topic?
It really depends, and I'm not saying that it's a catch-all statement. I'm saying that there are some scenarios where I think it's not appropriate. For instance, the email that I got from Chief Lay about collective bargaining, I don't think it's appropriate for me to be meeting with him one-on-one to discuss contracting issues. I think that has to happen in open meeting or an executive session.
Right, but you can meet with him to hear his grievances and concerns. Not necessarily, because I met with him. I didn't discuss his contract or negotiate a contract or anything that happens to be with his contract. I did meet with him to talk to him about his concerns about the department, the growth of the department, the town, what the needs are, and what the future holds. Nothing to do with his contract as a fire chief.
But if the intent of that is to,
There is no intent. It's a conversation. There's no intent.
well, again, I'm just reading the email that I got from him. If the goal is to have those discussions prior to the collective bargaining, then the public doesn't have the benefit of what the process was in terms of reaching those decisions. So,
Well, that would be an executive session anyways.
right, but then those meetings would become public. Those meeting minutes eventually become public.
Again, you can't limit conversations one-off by saying, I'm gonna come back 2 weeks from now because I can't talk to you.
Again, I'm gonna get guidance, and you can continue to do it as you see fit. I'm gonna get some guidance
Go ahead,
so
Bill.
that I'm more
If you,
comfortable.
if you were to, or one of us was to get a, let's just say the police chief or the fire chief came to us and said, I'm not getting along with the chair.
Mhm.
Can I have this conversation with you real quick? I have some concerns. So we would go in there, one of us, we can't have three of us, we'd go in, sit down, he might say what his problems are. It would be our obligation, I would think, to come back to the board and tell the board, hey, I got a complaint from the chief or whatever, he wasn't comfortable going through the chair, et cetera, et cetera. Would that be not right?
I don't know the answer.
I would be
think-
okay with it.
I wanna get some more guidance on that, because I don't have all the answers.
Right, and I respectfully agree with that. And the point is, if you have an open meeting would be, like you and Ed had talked about, you went out and you talked about the stuff that you did on the CPC. Mike, I believe, would need to say, and I think he has said, that if you're going to Boston and you're gonna talk to Senator Tarr to get the information, and the only reason I was going is because I had said all along that I wanted to, and I actually had talked to Senator Tarr when I was the past chair, and he had talked to me when the current police chief was getting in Dane that night and said, I got a meeting set up in Boston. I said, well, you really can't go through me, you need to go through the chair now. And he said, yeah, I will be talking to him, et cetera, but only because I started it, and the only reason that I was going was to hear what kind of grants are available, what's available to the town on behalf of the elderly building.
And I don't think that that's an issue, because you're disclosing in advance that you're going. I think the issue becomes when it happens after the fact.
Right.
So I think when you make the disclosure at the outset, that this is the, the
But I
conversation
think that what happened was that
Well, it's a
Senator
good-
Tarr came up to us at Jeff's ceremony
Right.
and said, hey, we should talk about some things that are gonna happen or might be able to work on with us. And then I came to the next meeting and I think I said, I think I'm gonna have lunch with Senator Tarr to talk about some options that may be available to us. So,
But
again, I don't understand what the confusion is, and who was this legal entity that you asked for an opinion on that was outside of
Jonathan
our?
Blodgett,
Who's that?
he's the DA of Essex County who handles all the issues regarding open meeting.
So not our town lawyers,
No.
okay. I just wanna bring that up. You know,
Well, I don't know if I personally would feel comfortable going now if there's gonna be a problem, and the board wasn't in favor of it, I don't think I'd be comfortable going.
I don't think that anybody's expressed that they're uncomfortable with your going,
Yep.
and you've made the disclosure in advance. And people right now have the opportunity to speak up,
Okay.
and nobody has said that they're not comfortable with that.
Okay.
So I don't view that as an issue.
Okay.
I think just overall,
Mhm.
as a matter of guidance moving forward, I feel that I need more clarity.
And the point that I'll make, and we don't have to drill this home, if we all three went into Boston and we had this meeting, and then the chairman came into the board meeting and said, well, Bill, me, and Denise went to this meeting in Boston, you guys all have a very good complaint. Wait a minute, you went to Boston, you didn't talk to us, you didn't tell us, you guys have a very good complaint.
right.
But I think the chair has openly stated that this is gonna go on and what have you, so, I don't like
I
to do.
don't disagree with that.
Okay. All right, no problem.
All right, moving on. We have correspondence, the minute from June 26, 2017. We have the letter from Philip and Pauline LaRoche regarding the Clean River project. EPA notice for the postponement of July 1st, 2017 effective date of the MS4 permit,
So can I just comment on that briefly?
the MS4 permit?
Yes, please. So as you all know, we had lengthy discussion during the budget time about the MS4 permit. The engineers came out and talked about the timeline. There's still a little confusion about what this impact will have on us. If you'll recall, when the engineer was here, he stated that even if the EPA vacates the requirements, Massachusetts still adopted the process. So we're just not sure if we will start right away. Bob and I were speaking the other day that maybe we hold off for a few months and just sort of see how things play out while we get some guidance from the state. We don't want to do nothing and then still be penalized because we didn't follow the state guidelines. But I just thought it was important for you all to know that there is some movement on this. They're looking to change the dates. I don't know if you read that whole EPA notice, but New Hampshire starts the following year, and some Massachusetts communities have complained that it's too quick, so they want to be on the same timeline as New Hampshire. So it doesn't look like it's going away unless something else changes. It's just going to postpone it. But again, we fall under the Massachusetts requirements, so I'll keep you posted as I hear more. But I just wanted you to be aware of that change.
Now we're on to director's time.
And I don't have anything other than, again, I want to reiterate my thanks again to my staff. They really have been wonderful at the end of the year. Congratulations to Jackie Sullivan, who retired on June 30th. And that's about it.
Okay. And then, anything for selectmen time? Bill Dunn?
I have a couple things. I would like to know if there's been any movement on the Pines Rec area as far as the group of people that were gonna go and work on a proposal. If anyone ever heard anything from them, if they're working on it or not?
I have not, but on that, I can tell you that the permits were supposed to be pulled for the drilling of the well, and DigSafe is to be called this week, so they're hoping in the next week or two to start that project. The well, actually, but I haven't heard from Recreation, no.
Okay, that was my other question, the well. And the other thing would be, do you know if there's been any more work or planned work for the bathrooms? Have you heard it?
To be honest, I haven't even talked to him about it.
Okay.
That's just not something I followed up on lately.
Okay. And then, the boat ramp, the dock masters are in place down there and what have you?
Yep.
And I noticed, there hasn't been a lot of, boats, maybe because of the season, what have you?
So we've had some issues with the moorings. So the moorings that were down there were old. So we pulled them all at the end of last season and inspected them, and the chains were bad and the mooring blocks were bad.
Yep.
So we just procured 6, I think, new mooring blocks. And now we have to get some chain before we can put boats back out there because it was just not safe.
I think that's good.
No, Bill covered all I had.
Bill?
Yeah, in Selectmen's time, I just want to update the board on the new high school project. We had a meeting last Wednesday, I
Yes.
believe. And the 6 project engineer has been picked, which is a good thing. He has vast experience in building schools around the state, as well as New Hampshire and Rhode Island, I believe. He's come down to 6 builders who all seem very equally qualified. It's just a matter of design now and personal taste.
Right, so it's just to clarify, it's the architects, not the builders.
Architects, my bad.
Yes.
Thanks for clarifying that for us. So they've all submitted their design proposals and what they'd like to do and their ideas. So we're kind of powering through that information. And things are going quite smoothly so far.
Yeah, so we will be meeting again on Monday. We have a follow-up meeting this coming Monday on that.
Right.
So the committee has selected 3 representatives that that will represent the Building Study Committee at the Design Selection Board at Mass School Building Authority. And they are going in, I think, Tuesday.
I think they're going on Tuesday.
2 Tuesdays in a row to interview these 6 designers. And then with the MSBA, they will pick who our designer will be. It's a little lopsided, though. I think there's like 8 MSBA representatives and 3 Groveland representatives, but we will be represented.
It is pretty lopsided toward the state. That it seems that no matter what we want or what we choose, the state really dictates the majority of the project. And basically one reason the project manager told us that was the state doesn't want to give any one contractor all the eggs in the basket. One is to spread the wealth, and two is not to overwhelm any one contractor to where the school buildings get delayed or there's, corners cut in order to meet timelines. So there is some decision-making that we just won't have. But I can assure you that they're all very well qualified, years of experience, and it looks to be going very well.
Impressive proposals.
Yeah.
So if they're already going after a design company or an architect, do they know if they're tearing the building down, going with a new building?
So that's what will come out of this design phase.
Right. There still are, I mean, all six had different configurations of where they would put the building, whether it was going to be one complex, two complexes, how they were going to deal with the natural environment that now the, current buildings sit on, how would they incorporate that into the most environmentally friendly and green building they could come up with. So there's lots of schools of thought there.
Right, so I think once they select the designer, there's then a process of months that the designer will come in, meet with staff, the principal, the administration, and really lay out what their wish list is, and then actually put it together a conceptual design of what either a refurbished or a combined middle and high school or just a high school, and then they will present their design plans. And it moves, I mean, I think they said it took,
12 to 18 months.
yeah.
Approval?
Well, they have to do that, then MSBA is involved, and then at that point, they'll come back and, get the towns involved for voting and things like that. We did reach out, Lisa, I know you had asked, for Dr. McQueen. We did speak to him, and he is available at an upcoming meeting. So we just have to figure out what the schedule is, but he is willing to come in and have that discussion with you all as well.
That it? Bill?
Oh, getting back to your senior center, Wayne is West Newbury?
Oh, Glenn.
Glenn, from West Newbury.
Yes.
It
Glenn
seems,
Kemper.
he's a part of the building committee too, and just
Board of Selectmen in West Newbury.
kind of getting off the track. We were talking about the senior center, and they had the same kind of issue. They'd really love to build a nice senior center over there, but kind of lack some funds. And we had talked about, combining resources and making a really nice facility that both towns and the folks in both towns could really enjoy. And my point, like I made before, as my children have gone through the Pentucket school system, I've met a number of friends in both West Newbury and Merrimack that I'm just as close to as the friends I've met here in Groveland. And it seems like a regional senior center that all the towns can contribute to and really make a center that the district could be proud of and the seniors could be proud of. I think it's an avenue that should be explored. It's an opportunity, and opportunity shouldn't be wasted.
Yeah, I mean, we could include that in the conversation. I'm just wondering if location would be the prime decision maker on that, because, coming down to the town complex here is easy, because things are close. Now, if we're building it, say, in West Newbury, now they gotta find, further transportation to get over there. Same for the residents in West Newbury. If they was downtown or at their complex, it's easy for them to get to. Now they gotta travel, albeit at only 3 or 4 more miles, it's still
Oh, absolutely.
a burden. So, I mean, I'm fine with discussing it. It's just, I don't know if that's gonna be the hindrance to not.
We had, I had gone to one of the meetings over there for something. Yeah, actually, I think it was the beginning of the high school.
It
And I
was.
had been talking to Mr. Kemper, and he was saying that when he did his research, that a lot of the people, a lot of the towns, when they've done these high school projects, they actually include a section of them for their elderly and housing in the buildings.
That's a
And
great
that's why they regionalize it into the high school. I think Georgetown might have just did it in one of their old schools.
Yes, however, keep in mind though, anything like that is not at all reimbursable by
Right.
the state as part of the MSBA project.
Right.
So, with the exception, like, they would count the square footage, and
Right.
unless you use shared spaces. I came here from Swampscott, obviously, and we did do that. We were the first one in the state, actually, to put a senior center in our high school. And we shared the kitchen and the gym and the workout room and the computer lab. Those things obviously would be covered by MSBA. But anything that was strictly senior center, the office space, their function room, their things, that is not. So that's still the full expense of the town. It's just it could be built within the structure. of
So
the
it's another avenue to explore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And,
perfectly fine with that.
You know, to leverage the experience and the talents and the wisdom that some of the seniors have to offer to our youth, just a win-win.
I would say if you are looking at things like that, you should bring in the Council on Aging and/or their building committee, because
Right.
we actually are out to bid right now for design services for Council on Aging behind here.
Right.
So that is out to bid right now. So that's something you should have a conversation with if you want to look at changing any of that.
Okay. Is that it, Bill?
That's it.
Lisa?
So, two follow-ups to that. In Swampscott, did they use that as sort of like was there a mentoring program there with?
Yeah, so we actually looked at it as an ability, there wasn't a formal mentoring program, but it actually happened that way. The seniors loved interacting with the kids, and the kids actually loved interacting with the seniors. And it came in, the seniors had knitting classes that some of the younger kids participated in, or not younger, but the kids. And then the computer sciences, the kids in the school were able to teach computer sciences. So it wasn't purposefully done that way, but it just happened,
Organic.
yes.
And one question of you, and maybe this is premature, but the proposal for the high school, is that a new footprint, or they're not sure yet?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
And it's funny to look at the design plans, they're all different.
They're
Like,
all-
not one picked it in the same location, the same even look of a building,
Or
the shape.
The same,
Yeah.
the direction.
Did any of them consider rebuilding what was there?
I
don't
don't
think
think any of them considered rebuilding what was there. I
Not in
mean,
their proposal anyway, I don't remember seeing that.
You can't rebuild the Tyrannosaurus Rex, Bill. It's
Sure you can.
The reason that I asked that was, is it foreseen that, like, where would it, if there's additional land that's available?
So most of them had, so it's funny, so they actually had them in all different locations, and I brought up the question because one of the design plans had the entire structure in Groveland. And I had said, sort of off the record at the meeting, like, well, how will that impact us if you're putting an entire school in Groveland?
But it's still over there on that property?
It's on that property, but the middle school side is Groveland. And I said, how will that impact us with public safety and responders? And they said that they're taking that off the table because that would impact the new fields complex that was just built. So that designer looked at removing those fields and building a school there. The other options I saw were in front of the existing high school where there's that practice field,
The
and
practice
then
field.
behind that school where the field is. So those really are the two primary locations, but all still in that facility site.
So the two things that I would like to raise under Selectmen's time are whether we should have Bob lay in for either as an agenda item or executive session to discuss his contract. And secondly, I would like to share with the board that I have the goal of trying to touch base with department heads to learn more about kind of what they see as the issues as I learn this job more. And I wanted to respectfully let the board know that I had an intent to do that.
So if I may, on the executive session, so executive session, it's either the chairman can call one, or you can ask the board to vote on it. So however you'd like to proceed.
Yeah, let's find a date that works for everybody. Okay. Can we get a motion to adjourn at 9:12?
Make a motion to adjourn at 9:12.
Second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
All right.
And there are several warrants over here to
Yeah.
decide if you haven't seen them yet.
No, that's what I'm thinking.